Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is our 7th and final episode of Brimstone by Callie Hart, where we are covering chapters 46 through 52. We are literally talking about the end of this book in today's episode. So spoilers for all of Brimstone. We may also reference any of the bonus chapters from Quicksilver or Brimstone.
Like Lexi said, it is literally the end of this book. So if you have not read every single thing down to the last line, because you know we're talking about that for a while, then please go finish the book. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we at Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
I will be screaming profanities at Belikon, but mostly at Diaxis. Yes, the whole place is going to feel my profanity. So please be mindful of those little listening ears.
They'll probably feed off of it there.
Just slurp it up.
Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events. On March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, we will be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Then on April 8th, we are partnering with the Denver Nuggets and Rebecca Yarros for a Fourth Wing themed basketball night at Ball Arena.
We are so excited to do a live show at the Neptune Theater on April 19th in Seattle. Tickets are on sale now for you to dive deep into How to Train Your Dragon with us.
Yes, my favorite movie! We will also be attending Fantastique's Starfall Ball on May 29th in Larkspur, Colorado.
And we're honored to go back to the Dragon Gauntlet Chapter 3 in Boyne City, Michigan on September 11th and 12th.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events, including a promo code for dreamers and readers. And in case you missed it, welcome, Fantasy Fan Fellas, to the Fantasy Fangirls Media Network.
Our very own executive producer Hayden and Book Talk star Stephen Walker will start season 2 of their podcast, diving deep into Brandon Sanderson's book 2 of Mistborn, Well of Ascension.
Hayden is an expert in Sanderson's Cosmere and has already read the Mistborn series.
But Stephen has not. So each episode only includes spoilers up to the chapters covered as Hayden takes Stephen through his first time reading these books.
Season 1 is available on the Fantasy Fan Fellas feed, available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And Season 2 kicks off February 4th. Be sure to give them a follow.
Last thing before we jump into Brimstone Episode 7. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. Number 1, the Hive Mind, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, book clubs, often featuring the authors themselves for a live Q&A, community events, promo codes for live events, plus 20% off and access to exclusive merch. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Spice Watchers, which includes everything from the Hive Mind level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges that especially came in handy this past week as you all voted for the 4th book for you all to vote on for us to deep dive. The Spice Watchers is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have the Feral Fans, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers. Plus, more behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, private Discord channel, and your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
We're still running a special where if you get an annual membership, you get 3 months for free. That offer does end on January 26th. Thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true, a whole media network that we're growing. It's so exciting. We appreciate you with all of our hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And now it is time to save Kingfisher. Or should I say, Khydan Graystar Finvarra!
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we sing Lore's Ballad one more time to discuss what happens in chapters 46 through 52 of Brimstone. Nicole, let's wrap up this book.
Chapter 46. You know shit's getting rough when Saeris asks Danya for help. Just one perfect hit and she goes down without a yelp. Saeris wakes up in a dream, but this is not right. The rot has completely covered Kalish and everything in sight. To the window! To the wall! Rot drips down Kalish's halls till all the chandeliers fall! That's just for you, Lexi. Fisher's bedroom door is locked tight. Even against Saeris' magic, the rot puts up a fight. But thanks to the Hazrax, the rot's attempts are in vain. Saeris breaks through the vines to see what Fisher's room contains. Once she's inside, everything feels wrong. Saeris turns to the Hazrax, her favor so strong. Chapter 47. Saeris wakes with a start in a snowy Wicker Wood. The Hazrax in tow, not speaking, understood. But she's not the only one in these trees. Belikon's men soon find themselves on their knees, with the guards taken down. To the trees, save Kingfisher! But one sword's not enough, so she'll take Nimmerel with her. Saeris may be quick, but Belikon's quicker. With a punch of his fist, he wraps his hands around her ticker. Saeris plunges her blade into Belikon's belly, giving her time to make her knees not so jelly. Khydan Graystar Finvarra, I order you to rise. Fight this piece of shit so we can leave before sunrise. Chapter 48. Kingfisher opens his eyes to see half his body stuck in a tree. The sights before him steal his breath, his mate fighting the king in a dance of death. Onyx protects his lady with everything he has, giving Kingfisher the chance to destroy Arias with pizzazz. Without a second thought, Fisher takes Belikon's head, but Stepdaddy Dearest is protected from being dead. Chapter 49. With nothing left for them here, they step through a gate, where 1 becomes 2, then 7, then 8. 12 gates later, they have finally arrived to the city on the mountain known as Ajun Sky. Risking it all, her magic and her life, Saeris undoes the fox tragedy brought on by a knife. With so much power, the task is done, but the rune now gone, nothing else can be undone. Who gives a fuck? Our furry friend is back! They better get inside before they're attacked. Chapter 50. The Ajun Gate cracks open, and what do you know? Here stands Renfis of the Erythian out in the snow. His oath was called in, and now he's here. But there's more to the story. Maybe Fisher needs a beer. You see, the portal in the city is one we've heard of before. Back with wee Fisher, when Belikon sent him through the Quicksilver door. It leads to a place where Fisher would rather not return, but the brimstone they need can be found here with no extra concern. Chapter 51. Khydan Graystar Finvarra hates dragons. He's not going to like the next stop for our bent wagon. Chapter 52. The realm that they find is hell indeed. Welcome to the land of dragons, half-breed. Saeris and Khydan almost end up melted to the floor, but Erison has other plans for them in store. Saeris wakes up upside down, but her weapons are here. Too bad the people are not keeping near. Khydan goes and opens his mouth, spilling out secrets that Saeris didn't know about. These shadows of his are not what they seem. Only half-gods of this realm can wield them outside a pipe dream. But there's one final twist Callie drops in our hands. Turns out Khydan's father hails from these lands. Here we go!
Here we go! All right, the episode we've all been waiting for. It is time to don our relics and step through the Quicksilver to discuss key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and so much more. We ended last episode with Danya all too happy to punch Saeris and knock her out, which, yes, is exactly what Saeris intended. She needed to get to the dreamscape, where even realms apart, she can be reunited with Fisher. I still couldn't tell you the technicality of how all this works, but I'm sticking with my belief that this is part of their god-bound mate's bond, and maybe even to do with Saeris' own powers we have yet to learn specifics about. Hopefully, going to this dreamscape will be very useful for Saeris as she tries to figure out where Fisher is and how to get to him, since our crew needs the guy with powerful magic and, who can transport people to other areas of the realm. One punch later, and Saeris wakes up in a dream state. Huzzah! It worked! And double huzzah! Because instead of the Huntsman Cottage that she has previously been to in her dreamscapes, she is right now in the college estate, exactly where she focused on to end up. But that's where the huzzahs end, because college, even in this dreamscape, is in terrible condition since the rot invaded. The windows are all smashed out in the dining room, and the fire burning in the hearth is gray and black. The rot is covering the room, draining this entire space of all life, and we see firsthand the devastation the rot brings to all it touches. This makes me so sad to see college in this state, and I just hope that it gets resolved and this home can come back to life, thanks to Brimstone destroying the rot and maybe carrying and regrowing the land.
Well, okay, so this was a question I had for you in foreshadowing. Do you think that Kalish is going to be saved because of the brimstone that lives beneath the land? But in order for that to happen, wouldn't the fire sprites have to use a lot of their brimstone and thus kill them?
I don't think that the brimstone associated with the fire sprites are going to Yeah, because they would literally have to bleed, and that is how the brimstone would come out. So no, I don't think it'll have anything to do with the existing brimstone that is currently there. I'm thinking it'll be really beautiful symbolism for Saeris to save Kingfisher's home here, because now it's going to be their home together. And so I do think that it will be fixed, but Saeris is going to be the one to fix it. I am also very curious how this whole dragon thing is going to work out, because technically Fisher could get on his dragon. The dragon could breathe fire and brimstone all on everything. Yes, everything would be destroyed and they'd have to rebuild, but that's a hell of a lot better than the rot.
That's so real. The rot is also locked down tight to the door for her in Fisher's bedroom. Not very nice, rot. So using her power, Saeris sends a bolt of white-blue energy into the door. But the second her magic comes into contact with that vine-wrapped door, the tendrils of rot and surrounding the walls flare white and double in size. Womp womp. Remember from the super feeders in episode 1, they fed off the power that Wren and Fisher threw at them. Same thing here. The rot expands and knots within itself, forming a hard shell over the door. So she's worse off than she was 2 minutes ago. So using magic on the rot, even in the dreamscape, is not going to work. The door is warded by magic, meaning that Saeris needs magic to get in. So assessing her magical options on hand, Saeris remembers her rune from the Hazrax, the rune that means undo or break. So closing her mind, Saeris reaches out and finds the energy of this rune. It immediately wakes up and answers Saeris in the same moment. Unlike her other runes, this one does not light up on her hands and, burn them. Instead, a jolt of energy surges through her and vibration buzzes in her fingertips. Probing the warning spell, Saeris feels an almost sentientness to this spell, like it's trying to avoid her and slip through her fingers. Not so fast, rot! Before it can escape her mental grasp, Saeris tells it to break. The rune tingles and the rot crumbles and disintegrates to the floor. Huzzah!
So it's so good for us to know that at least the Hazrax magic that it has imbued into this rune, it works against the rot. That no other magic works against the rot.
Which, considering that the Hazrax, I'll talk about this later, has veins that look like the rot, I find that very suspicious. We'll talk about that later.
That soon, yes. Entering her and Fisher's room, we have good news and bad news. Good news, yay, Fisher's here. He's sitting in the chair in front of the dead fire. Bad news, he might be physically here, but he's not actually here. And he's in really tough shape. His eyes are clouded, deathly pale skin, split lip, and bloodied. I'm guessing this is the shape he's actually in as he's being encased by the tree, and he is in some kind of coma where he's semi-aware but trapped within his mind. All in all, Fisher is lifeless. He might not be dead, but something horrible has happened to him.
This is chilling, suspensive storytelling. I love this. But Fisher is not the only other presence in this room, if you can even really call him a presence. The Hazrax is watching. Quick note, like I was just saying, on the Hazrax, there are, quote, the same kind of black veins that marked the infected feeders on the Hazrax's pale skin. Why are we not talking about this? Does this mean that the Hazrax has something to do with the rot, especially considering its rune works against it? Could it somehow be a god, or the god that created the rot, or the god from the realm that created the rot? Or does it hail from the same place that the rot was created in? I refuse to believe that it is helping the rot, at least now. It might have created it long ago. The Hazrax is good. I will not be convinced otherwise. I love the Fairy God-Hazrax.
Well, I don't think the Hazrax is any kind of aid to the rot, like you're saying here. Yeah. It has said to Saeris that it feels partially responsible for what she's going to have to go through, which could be related to the rot. I'm right there with you, though. I don't think the Hazrax is directly connected to the rot. Here, the Hazrax also... Oh, is that not what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm think the more and more I'm thinking about it, I think it created the rot. And now it's like, oops, my bad.
Okay, well then let me rephrase. I don't think that the Hazrax is directly related to the rot. Here, the Hazrax also says it does have a hand in everything, but Saeris will learn that soon enough. When it says soon enough, is that like soon enough when she travels to the other realm to Diaxis? Or around when she seals the Brimstone, and part of what she'll have to face and what it'll cost her is tied to the Hazrax. I can't imagine how that would go down, just throwing spaghetti at the wall.
I think I'm going to go with it is either a god from the realm that created the rot, or it is one of the gods that created the rot. One of the reasons it's watching is because it's seeing how badly it might have fucked up a little bit. In accordance with its deal with Saeris, she said that it could watch over her on the same terms as Malcolm. Thinking, this is where you missed the boat, Saeris, thinking it would be watching over the Blood Court. But no, the Hazrax deal was that it could watch Malcolm, not the Blood Court. Always ask for the fine print, Saeris.
Never forget the 5 W's when making bargains. Who, that's very important for you here, Saeris, who, what, when, where, and why.
I honestly do feel like kind of a genius when we figured out that all Fae bargains just hit all 5 of the W's.
Oh, I'm absolutely stealing that for my story.
Oh, 100%.
Like 100%, I'm stealing that.
Understandably, it irks Saeris quite a bit. She feels duped, not to mention pretty fucking helpless at the sight of her mate, and she looks for a loophole of her own. And she thinks she's being smart, but she's just a little impulsive here. I'm just going to say it.
A little?
Well, I'm going to call her impulsive a lot in this, so I'm starting small.
Okay.
In return for the Hazrax watching her, she does have a favor that she can call in. Fairy God-Hazrax, I call in the favor for you to tell me where Fisher is. Sorry, it cannot do that. I'm assuming because Fisher is in the oubliette, meaning he's unreachable?
I believe so, and that's what it means by accords that prevent this from being within its power.
Fine. So if it cannot do that, then go away. Her favor is that the Hazrax is not allowed to watch her anymore, and in 1 year's time, when they make the bargain again and it's up for renewal, she is not interested in going into another contract with it.
Okay, first of all, I commend her business communication skills here. And
yes.
At the same time, Saeris, I need to shake you and be like, you have an all-powerful being trying to help you continually. I get it. I do. I wouldn't want a creepy, mysterious creature watching me constantly either. But
You'd never be alone, which sounds nice.
But, yeah, in the end of the world and your mate's lives are literally at stake, and the Hazrax only shows up when it is ready to offer help. It has continually offered good help. I don't know. I would take it.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that the Hazrax can fulfill this bargain, but luckily it's like, don't do it. Don't you do it, Saeris. Don't do it. It knows that shit's about to go down and she's going to need this fairy god Hazrax's help. Remember how I said she can be impulsive? But the Hazrax is kind. It will allow for 1 minute for her to change her mind. And remember, she has a purpose for being in this dream state that she's just been a little distracted from.
You know what I'm about to say, Nicole?
You're about to compare her to a toddler.
No, this time I'm going to say that the Hazrax is wonderful at gentle parenting because it's reminding her why she really came here. It's giving her an opportunity as well as some good boundaries around it.
You know what? I am not going to fight you on that because I agree with you wholeheartedly on this one. So finally, yes, I agree.
At the end of last episode, Saeris remembered the paper bird/stargazer that fell from the library sky, and she ended up leaving here in their college bedroom. She needed to come back here to this dreamscape to find the paper that she correctly realizes is the missing page from Edina's book, the one that will tell her what to do now that she's at the White Cliffs. Racing against the Hazrax time limit, Saeris finds the paper on the bookshelf. Huzzah! It's underneath the Kingfisher bird figurine that the fire sprites had set down earlier in the book. Boom, reading it, Saeris knows how to change her favorite. She knows where to go. While we don't find out exactly what the paper says, we can easily gather that it says at least 2 things. Number 1, Fisher is in the Wicker Wood. That's how Saeris now knows where to go for her favor from the Hazrax. And number 2, very importantly, Fisher's true name, which Saeris describes as the tools to save him. Tools is plural there. Not sure if that's notable, but something I noticed if there might be more tools to this piece of paper here that we don't know.
So I actually think that the tools is referring to here's his name and here's what to do with his name in order to break the oath and all that kind of stuff so he's not fucked with Belikon hearing it. That's my guess.
Okay, yeah. We'll put a pin in that. We'll talk about that here soon. What Edina does not say on this piece of paper is the means to reach Fisher in time, because she says that will be up to Saeris. I'm guessing either Edina knows as an oracle about the Hazrax being here in this moment, but Saeris needs to make the choice to call in her favor herself, Or Edina does not know about the Hazrax because its power like blocks Edina or something. However, we do know that the Hazrax knows about Edina, the Oracle. Edina saw what's about to happen go down and knew Saeris and Fisher would be in this predicament, and this would be the moment that his true name must be revealed. So this is where I'd love to bring up that question you were just asking, Nicole. I wonder if she also told Saeris about using the Hazrax rune to break Fisher's true name binding. As much as I wonder and probably assume that is the case, I want to believe that was all Saeris, based off our previous conversations about the journal being a crutch for our character's own agency and ability, especially since Saeris did just break the magical wards intertwined with rot on her own. So I like to think that gave her the idea to then use this with Kingfisher.
I also want to think that, but then I put myself in Saeris's smarts, and she is street smart. Do not get me wrong. She is scrappy. Like that whole thing with the coin and the bag and how she, all that last book, like that was so smart and intelligent. I really enjoyed that. However, this type of Fae bargain manipulation smart, I don't know if we've seen that from Saeris. And it's actually, we've seen the opposite called to attention multiple times. So for that reason, I do think it was Edina in her journal saying, you're going to use the Hazrax's rune. You're going to break the oath like this. I mean, it's Edina, so she was probably like, the rune of the Hazrax moves within you. And da, 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 da. But like, I agree. I want it to be Saeris. Yes. But if I'm looking from a story lore perspective and grasping on to what we know, I don't think I can fulfill that want.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Yep. But we don't know, at least.
With only seconds remaining before the Hazrax has to follow her first favor and disappear for a whole year, Saeris is able to change what she would like from the Hazrax. Thank goodness. To the Wicker Wood we go. This does mean that her bargain with the Hazrax will remain. 1 year of being watched. I don't know. I think it's pretty useful, so I'm happy to have it. Now,
which this also means that the Hazrax will definitely come into play again.
Now, a question people had after reading was, how did the Hazrax transport her physical body, not her dreamscape body that we're seeing in Callie, to the Wicker Wood? Saeris also questions it and quickly dismisses it to magic. And I'll do the same thing, because with what we do know about the Hazrax and how all-powerful it is, I am not surprised that it has the ability to take her physical body, tools, weapons, and all, and transport that to the Wicker Wood rather than what it's seeing in Callie.
I absolutely agree. And Saeris knows that her physical body has been transported because back when she was in Ishtar with Danya, she had her sword on her. When she went into the dreamscape, she did not have her sword with her. But when the Hazrax transports her to the Wicker Wood, she does again have her sword, which means that her physical body has been transported. I will say she should have some kind of black eye or something from Danya's putsch, but I don't think I pick up on that for the rest of this book. Saeris wakes up in the snow-covered ground of the Wicker Wood thanks to her one-way ticket a la the Hazrax. But don't worry, the Hazrax is sticking around, everybody, in silence. Shh. It's ready to watch whatever happens next. Quick refresh about what the Wicker Wood is and why this place is super spooky. Back in Quicksilver, we learned that the Wicker Wood is a prison where only those guilty of the most heinous crimes are sent, and they are entombed in the trees. The woods are full of haunting shades, which are ghosts, as they scream, forced to relive their last moments over and over again. Just like we predicted from our Quicksilver coverage, now that Saeris has heightened Fae senses, including sight, she can see everything here, and it is a terrifying scene as she sees all of these gruesome deaths and people trapped in their own pain and torment just playing out over and over again.
It's so sick. I love it.
I know. Saeris is pulled in the direction of Fisher. She can sense that tiny little bit of Quicksilver within Fisher, and she follows that, leading her to a camp of 10 of Belikon's warriors, with Belikon and Orias lurking in the shadows.
These soldiers waste no time. The first of the warriors rushes towards Saeris and whips out a null blade. Fuck! Saeris notes that the null blade feels like a blind spot in her vision, black holes that are sucking her energy and magic out of the woods itself.
You all know me and how much I love these kind of descriptions of magic. Callie is so good at making me feel like I can visualize the magic and feel how it is moving within this world.
Even though Saeris cannot manipulate these blades like she can other metals, Saeris is fueled by her need to find her mate, so she is ready to take these motherfuckers down in the normal way. without magic. Remember how I said she was scrappy? One of the warriors shoots an arrow at Saeris, but she ducks just in time and parries another attack in the same moment. With a flick of Aramar, one of the guard's blades goes sailing into the darkness and giving Saeris the perfect opportunity to plunge her own blade into his ribs. Holy fire comes out of his eyes and mouth as he lights up like a Christmas tree. I wonder if holy fire is her god sword's power, which I think of like as that like white blue light that we keep hearing about that Renfis also has. So I'm going to keep an eye on it because it's never stated.
I don't think of it as quite the same as Renfis's white light, but I do love the idea of Saeris's god sword powers being more on the light side of magic, and then Fisher's, of course, with Nimmerall is like the dark side of magic, and how those two complement each other.
One after another, the guards keep coming, and Saeris knocks them down again and again, but she's running out of stamina and fast. Belikon sees this too, yelling at his guards to pin her, and they oblige. One of his guards launches themselves at Saeris, but she thrusts her blade up into him, frying him from the inside. Ouchie. 3 others land on her, and when a 4th set of hands make contact, Saeris lets go of her magic. Her rune starts glowing brighter and brighter, lighting up the gnarly trees in the surrounding areas. Belikon notices this too late to save his men as her shield flares to life, projecting itself into the air and as, quote, a falling star. Oh, I love that. Her quicksilver rune burns brightest and pulses. With just a flick of her wrist, the shield rotates and grows larger as her magic swells. When it finally detonates with a pulse of energy, the guards are launched into the air and obliterated in a fine mist of blood and pulverized meat. Yummy. That rains down, speckling the snow red. Take that! So good!
Instead of being horrified that his soldiers are now all dead and pulverized meat, Belikon is staring in wonder at Saeris's layered power. He has never, in all his thousands of years, has seen anything like what she just did.
In all my Fae days, I've never seen
Well, all of his Fae plus immortal days. Who knows how long this motherfucker's been alive? And Belikon is like, mine. This kind of power cannot possibly be allowed to exist in this world unless it's bound to him. Of course, right? Remember how even before he saw everything Saeris can do, he was interested in her as an alchemist and having her carry out his orders. That was only the beginning of book 1, before she could even awaken the Quicksilver. Think about how far Saeris has come now and how much more potential she has too. And that's exactly what Belikon is seeing. He sees what she is capable of fighting here, the power she has the potential to wield, and he needs control over it.
Now, Belikon says something mighty interesting here. When Saeris tells him that he shouldn't have killed off the other alchemists if he wants one so bad, he says, quote, "Is that what they told you? That I killed off your kind? You should do more research before..." And then Saeris fucking interrupts him saying, "I don't want to hear it."
I will go ahead and say, I do agree that Saeris in general does need to do more research.
Oh, you say that?
Saying.
I think she needs to interrupt people less. That's also true. She's been doing this to this motherfucker since book 1. So I think we could both agree that whatever he was about to say is extremely important, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank God.
I think the seeds are being planted in these first 2 books, that there is a lot more to Alchemist history that will tie into the main story, especially in relation to Belikon and Madra.
But does this mean that the alchemists are still alive that he's referring to, or that the ones that she thought he killed off? Because I don't know.
I don't think so at all. I think that the alchemists certainly seem like they are all gone. For instance, Belikon was way too excited for an alchemist who was a human from Zalvarin. And if he had any others alive, I don't think Saeris would be his last hope.
That's extremely fair. I do wonder if Madra took some of Evelia's alchemists and killed them.
I think she had too many in her own realm.
That's true. That's true. That was crumbling as I said it mid-sentence. Now, I do wonder, did Belikon use them all until they drained? Or, like Edina, this seems very plausible for Belikon, they lied to him, and I'm saying lied in major air quotes, because they probably couldn't lie because of their oath to the Stone and all that kind of stuff. And he had them killed as a result. So it's like they were disloyal to him in his eyes.
So what I'm hearing is it sounds like you do think that he very specifically did kill them off. I'll say what I think.
Okay.
Is that all the alchemists were killed off and we don't know the reason yet, and Belikon is connected to it, but is not the direct cause. Oh. So other people are like, yes, he absolutely had a hand in them getting killed off, and therefore he is responsible. From his perspective, he's like, fuck no, I was not responsible for that. And it's all about subjectivity and who you hear it from.
Okay. I could definitely see that. I also wonder if there is or was a community of alchemists who were like funneling power into him. Like from the beginning, Belikon has not really given off this like, I'm most powerful. Mwahaha. He's always given off, I want to be more powerful. I want to be more powerful. He's an evil villain after all. So could he be siphoning that power from a group of alchemists? How that would work, I have no idea. Don't ask me. That would require them to still be alive, which I'm leaning towards they aren't. I think you're right. I think that there's something we don't know. God forbid I theorize.
Now, going with your theory is that Zarth did say at the end of Quicksilver that there are still millions of alchemists in the universe, and that there are still some in Zelvarin. He did not specify whether there were any in Yvelia, but I am thinking, no, there are not any in Yvelia. And
really?
Yes, there are some in hiding in Zelvarin, and I am still sticking with my idea that there is some kind of, I'm going to call it a secret society of alchemists in another realm.
I definitely agree about the secret society of alchemists in another realm. I definitely agree about there being some undercover in Zelvarin. I absolutely think there are some undercover in Yvelia.
What?
Are we making our first bet for Fae Alchemy 3?
I feel very strongly that there are no more alchemists in Yvelia. Yeah.
Okay, I feel strongly
I think
that
about
there
Foley,
are
whose
alchemists.
grandfather was one of the last alchemists.
Hidden alchemists, Lexi. Hidden. They're
Yeah,
hidden.
I'm still thinking there's not any.
No, yeah, okay. Well, I'm writing it down. All right, here we go.
And I would also like to give a little asterisk next to that.
Of course
that
you
if
would.
we do not ever find out, that is an automatic I win.
Okay, for this one, I accept that asterisk.
I keep catching on the detail that Belikon is dressed like for a great celebration.
Same.
It could be his way of celebrating that he finally has Fisher, or he's still dressed from the Winter Palace Even Light festivities, which was, 2 days ago? Yeah. So I'm bringing back the possibility of the power source from the Even Light fueling Belikon's ability to grab Fisher from halfway across the realm as he went through the Shadow Gate. Fisher's in an oubliette, which is a giant tree with black bark. He is literally trapped inside of the tree. It's as if he's within an open wound, and it has him up to his shoulders, almost about to swallow him whole. And once Fisher is fully inside the oubliette, it's game over. He has been sentenced to life imprisonment. More on that in a moment. Maybe if Saeris behaves and becomes oathbound to Belikon, serves him dutifully as a powerful alchemist and does whatever he tells her to do, then he will consider releasing Fisher in maybe a few thousand years. Oh dear, Fisher looks like he is seconds away from death. This is all very, very bad. Quick mini archives on oubliettes, because these are not ordinary trees. They used to be a clan of dryads who stood up to one of the northern witch clans. Well, they lost, and the witches cursed them, turning them into these tree prisons and into everything the dryads abhorred. And if you're curious about what a dryad is, dryads are like tree nymphs, tree spirits. So think of like a humanoid tree species that is connected with the earth. These dryads turned oubliettes are doomed to feed on the suffering and misery of others. That's where their prisoners come in, because they keep them alive, feeding on their fear and never-ending pain. Which, yes, is exactly what is happening to poor Fisher right now, as he is trapped in an endless darkness, sort of alive as he endures this torture. As Oriah says before Belikon interrupts him, quote, their relationship becomes symbiotic. It's fascinating, really. Okay, maybe I'm delusional and always suspicious when there's an interruption, but why do I think this might come back into play later, especially as we anticipate the witches playing a bigger role in Book 3, and our crew will need all the help they can get. So maybe these curses will be broken, and the dryads will help the world heal from the rot or rise up against Belikon and take their spitefulness out on him. Maybe that's wishful thinking, though.
I will wishful thinking there, right there with you. That is so cute, and I love that your cozy little fantasy heart would like that, because that is very sweet.
I feel for the dryads, okay?
I know you do. Fun fact, an oubliette in real life is actually not a type of tree or plant at all. I had a whole plant watch and then I was like, never mind. It's a late 18th century French watch. So oubliettes are from late 18th century France, from the word oublier, which means forget. Oubliette means a secret dungeon with access only through a trapped door in its ceiling. The primary purpose for those oubliettes were to keep prisoners hidden and forgotten about, much like Fisher here within the tree oubliette.
So back to why Fisher has been sentenced, major air quotes around that, to this life imprisonment with the worst possible punishment. Belikon is bringing this back to Gilthry. Remember the scene in his Great Hall early in Quicksilver, I believe it was chapter 7 called The Dog, when Fisher is presented and crazy from the Quicksilver, and Belikon calls for a trial where Fisher needs to answer for his crimes against Gilthry, burning the city and its people 110 years ago. Well, apparently that trial occurred without Fisher present, and surprise, he was found guilty of this massacre. Now, we know this is a load of bullshit. Belikon and Malcolm were actually the ones responsible for Gilthry, and our crew who knows the truth haven't exactly been near the Winter Palace to spread the news that Belikon is indeed a bad guy. This is Belikon's way to get Fisher out of his way once and for all. He's been trying to do this for the last 1700 years, and this is his opportunity to serve the revenge he's wanted against Fisher, who has always been a threat to Belikon.
While there are many, many reasons that Belikon would want Fisher trapped and on the brink of death in an oubliette, one main perk is access to Fisher's godsword. Belikon has been thirsting after a godsword since we've known him. I do wonder what happened to Ruik's godsword, because Belikon was holding it right after he killed him many, many, many years ago. But last book, we saw how badly Belikon wanted to keep Solace, and he's pissed at Fisher for taking it from him when they fled for Kalish last book. Belikon sees it only fit that he takes Fisher's godsword in return, which is currently at the base of the oubliette, lying on top of a stone, spewing thick black shadows from the blade. I love that, where it's like it's trying to fight and get back to its owner. But also more on that later in Diaxis. As time will go on for Kingfisher in his oubliette cage, his connection to Nimmerel will eventually fade because he's basically as good as dead. And Belikon is ready to claim that sword for his own when it's ready for a new master. And with such a legendary godsword, not just any godsword, in his hands, he will use it to bring any who refuse to bow to Belikon to their needs. Quote, "For the good of Avelia." Fuck this guy.
He certainly does not know the power of Nimmerel, but knowing later on when Crave says that this sword could end worlds in the right hands, first of all, Belikon would never be possible to be the right hands, but he doesn't seem to even have this knowledge whatsoever about the sword. So, good thing he doesn't know the real origin of it.
Good thing he didn't get it.
Yes, exactly. Saeris ever so kindly informs Belikon of a few important things about Nimmerel. Number 1, it was given to Fisher by the gods themselves, Bao and Min, in the bonus chapter, The Gate, that you can read for free on Callie's website. We're going to learn a whole lot more about its origin in a few chapters, like I was just mentioning. Number 2, Nimmerel is made of iron, which is unheard of for a Fae sword. A Fae should not be able to wield the weapon. They are weakened by iron. But Fisher proved strong enough to wield it after he closed the iron Ajun Gate, even knowing it would and should have killed him.
Do you think that he's able to withstand iron better? Yes, because he trained himself, but also because he's a half god?
Ooh, possibly. I wonder if he was able to train himself because he is a half god.
Yeah.
I just always assumed that him proving himself with that iron gate and that he had trained was further reason why Bao and Min saved him and healed him and thought he was worthy. But that's not all Saeris has to share with Belikon about this sword. Number 3, the soul of Fisher's friend and twin to Renfis bound her soul to this blade after she died by dragonfire at the Battle of Ajun Gate. That's why Fisher named the sword Nimmerel, for Morel. Again, we really do recommend reading this free bonus chapter that is this battle, and we see all of this unfold on the page. I love that bonus chapter. That is like a pinnacle kind of bonus chapter where it provides some good extra information, but it's not necessary for the main story. All of this coming to light doesn't bode well for Belikon. It is clear Nimmerel cannot be wielded by anyone but Fisher. Belikon is weakened by iron. He can't touch it, therefore he would not be able to touch the sword with his bare hands. And the soul of Fisher's friend will never let Belikon call this sword his own. She doesn't really like him very much. Fisher has a partnership with Nimmerel, the god sword, instead of ownership over it, which a villain like Belikon could not possibly comprehend.
This whole time that Saeris is talking about Nimmerel, she's stepping slowly forward, closer and closer to the blade, until finally she calls onto Nimmerel and prays as it's flying through the air towards her that it does not kill her. It slams into her palm, and surprisingly, there's only a brief unpleasant shock and then nothing. She lives! There's no voice in her head, nothing coming through the Quicksilver or the gods or even Morel. There's a faint smell of juniper and a distant playful laughter on a non-existent breeze. I think that's Morel.
I thought it was the twins, the goddess twins.
Oh.
Like, that's who I automatically associate with playful laughter.
But we also know that Morel laughed a lot, and she was like very easy and like, you know, a
That's
very
true,
playful
too.
person.
I love that. I
kind of like that it could be both.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I do think it's Morel, though, now that you say that.
But it's so cute because it's like, it's her approving of Fisher's mate, of her wielding the sword. So simultaneously, the god sword in her left hand, this is now the fused together solace, forms a pillar of blazing white light, while the god sword in her right hand, Nimmerel, erupts into a wall of shadow and smoke. Fucking badass! This is the first time in Evalian history that a god sword has entrusted itself in the hands of someone it was not bonded to. Holy shit! This is only possible because Kingfisher loves Saeris, and she came here with the sole purpose of saving him. Yay, mate shit!
Oh, the sword accepts its owner's mate, or its partner's mate, and she is wholeheartedly on the sword's side. Together, Saeris and Nimmerel can defeat the bad guys and save Fisher! Orias rushes to the tree to seal Fisher in once and for all. Let's not play games here anymore, everybody. As his hand touches the trunk, Saeris hurls Solace like a spear. The sword hits its mark, cleaving through Orias' side and into his chest. I'm very confused how this does not kill Orias, especially after Saeris using her god's short swords on the soldiers and smoke puffs out of him before he's dead. These are magic swords, but it's fine. He'll die here soon anyway. These are magic swords. Belikon, okay, fine, you're immortal because of the triumvirate. But Orias should not be alive after this. Anyway, it's fine. He'll eventually die here soon. But the damage is already done. The trunk is closing around Fisher. No!
Saeris' focus drifts for 1 second, and Belikon is suddenly standing in front of her. The next second, his fist has slammed itself into her chest with the force that should have sent her flying backwards. But instead, it punches through her breastbone and into her chest cavity. Not again! It's a little, you know that one, where it's like, if I read this line twice, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's odd that it happened twice.
The number of times that you reference that quote.
Well, yeah.
I will ask, though, does it seem odd to you that almost this exact same thing happened last book with Malcolm? Is this like some kind of, I'll call it a superpower of the triumvirate?
I definitely think that it's here for very one-to-one symbolism of this is exactly what Malcolm did. This is definitely some kind of triumvirate thing. If it happens a third time next book with Madra, I'm going to be like, where's some fucking armor? But I do think it's some kind of connection that maybe we just don't have a through line yet for, or maybe this is just to show how powerful they are. But again, where's some fucking armor, Saeris? Distracted by his assumed victory. Honestly, I'd also assume victory if I was Belikon too. Literally having punched through Saeris' chest cavity, it's finally time for Saeris to drop the bomb she's been holding onto, like Belikon is holding onto her literal beating heart. She's got a message from his dead wife. Before we get into the contents of that message, I want to highlight Belikon's reaction because he flinches, little flinchy flincher. I think deep down, he knows that Edina's oracle predictions that he called lies, they were truth. Since she was oathbound, she literally had to be telling the truth, and he killed her for telling quote-unquote lies. And here I wonder if he knows that one of the predictions she told him is about to come true. Also, considering that he killed her, hearing that his dead wife has a message for him, yeah, you better flinch!
Well, and then Saeris continues, quote, she told me to tell you never. So I'm wondering what this never is referring to, because that's my understanding that is the message specifically for Belikon here, that
yes.
Never. So did he make a command before killing her? And this is her getting to finally answer since she wasn't able to before, because she died too fast? Is this her giving him a reply as an oracle and she's saying he'll never win or something to that effect? Did he try to make a demand of her related to her children and it's her mama bear answer? There's so many possibilities, but I love that idea. I do think that it's something tied to an oracle response. And she's like, you'll never, ever win kind of thing.
Yeah.
With this quick throwing of Belikon off, Saeris calls Solace back and at the same time drives Nimmerel into Belikon's stomach and up, out of his back. Same stab that Fisher gave him back in Gilthry at the end of Quicksilver. Belikon has 2 god swords in him right now, one in his stomach and one in his chest.
Ironically, that's not the last time we're going to be referencing K-pop Demon Hunters this episode.
Shadows swirl around Belikon, I assume from Nimmerel, but no matter their effort, it's never enough to kill Belikon. Mwahaha, you can't defeat me! Even with 2 god swords in him, he cannot be killed. So, real quick, we have to talk about this. A common theme throughout this scene is, how and why is Belikon still alive? While the iron in Nimmerel dulls his magic and weakens him, it is not killing Belikon, but it sure as hell is useful against him in this moment and keeps him pinned down and helpless. Saeris knows that today is not the day that Belikon will be killed. I'm assuming she recognizes this fact because he is part of the triumvirate. Malcolm seemingly died because he was already severely wounded by Carrion. The Godsword is what finished him off. Again, we are presuming that he was actually finished off, but he at least went up into blue flames, which is a lot more than we can say about Belikon here. Belikon, however, does not have the same weakness that Malcolm had as a vampire. Remember that Belikon literally murdered the Dianthus family line to ensure Malcolm's Achilles heel would not ruin things. They needed to get rid of the one thing that could actually defeat Malcolm. And then Carrion actually came through with that one thing to defeat him, but because he was so powerful, it did not fully take him off the board, and that is where Saeris was able to do so, again, presumably, with Solus. So that is where I think that difference is with why Belikon is not dying in the same way that Malcolm did, even with the same wounds. And then when it comes to Saeris thinking in her inner monologue that she's not the one who is supposed to deliver the killing blow for Belikon. I will say, how in the world anyone will be able to defeat Belikon is beyond me, but I am guessing that it'll be Carrion. Maybe there's something to him being the rightful heir that'll give him a one-up against Belikon, or as a team, they can break the triumvirate magic, so it gives Carrion the ability to kill Belikon once and for all. What I'm saying is, though, Saeris knows it's not her blade that will kill Belikon, and I think she has a feeling that it should be Carrion, that it will be Carrion. But anyway, with 2 swords stuck in Belikon, Saeris focuses back on freeing her mate. We have to get Fisher out of this tree. There is no power in this realm or any other that can supersede an order given using someone's true name. Not even a king's order. And we know that names hold meaning here in this realm. And when a Fae is ordered by their true name, they must obey. So when Saeris uses Fisher's full name in her order, she is able to declare all oaths he has ever sworn null and void. Yes, including the one he swore in front of the Finrin stone that made him oathbound to the realm's ruler, aka Belikon. We'll soon find out that in this moment, Saeris will use the Hazrax undo/break rune to release Fisher of his true name's oath. So this sequence is a 2-parter. Number 1, out loud and using his true name, Saeris releases Fisher of all oaths he's sworn, making them null and void. He's no longer bound to Belikon and therefore can get out of this imprisonment. And number 2, Saeris uses her rune to break the power over Fisher's true name, so no one can use his true name to make him do anything ever again.
So with a very carefully worded declaration, quote, Kingfisher of the Ajun Gate, I hereby call you by your true name. I declare all oaths you have sworn null and void, rise, Khydan Graystar Finvarra, in honor of your full name you were given at birth. Rise up and fight! Oh my God, this was so satisfying. I remember you and I reading this at God knows what ungodly hour, and we were just losing our shit in this moment. It was so cool.
By this time, it would have been Tuesday evening.
That is true. Yes, it would have. Thank you for the timestamp. We would not be Fantasy Fangirls if we did not go through each of these names. Let's start with Khydan. This is more of a contemporary adaptation of the Irish Gaelic name Khydan, which means spirit of battle or fighter, which is very on par for Fisher. Gray, the color, it symbolizes neutrality, control, and practicality, which control, definitely see that for Fisher. But when I also looked through Quicksilver for any mentions of gray, I found one very interesting. The color of Zareth's robes and Bal and Mithin's dresses were all gray. The three gods we have seen and witnessed are all wearing gray. So I could absolutely see the gray of Graystar being a reference to his half-god lineage. Then, Star. If you have listened to Fantasy Fangirl, specifically our Quicksilver coverage, you know I have been on major Star watch when it comes to Fisher. He was wearing a crown of stars when Saeris was in and out of consciousness. There's stars in his eyes. We get his mother's connection to stargazers, aka Kingfisher birds. Even when Fisher hears his name in a few moments, he feels like it's a newly formed star. And then, of course, we got Gray Star. This was so satisfying.
I would just like to give you a big round of applause, Nicole. It's moments like this where it's so satisfying as a deep diver, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, big sister. I'm happy for me too. Lastly, we have Finvarra. Now, immediately when I hear Finvarra, I think of Finrod, and it would be a nod to his father. But then, when I looked up Finvarra, it actually turns out that Finvarra is a king in Irish folklore. Some facts about Finvarra. He is the king of Edina, which means the folk of the fairy mountains. I love the fairy mountains. He is seen as a benevolent figure who ensures good harvests and rewards mortals with riches. I love this full circle moment considering last book, Fisher never believed himself to be a good leader. And here he is, his last name is based off of someone in Irish folklore who's known for being a good leader. Also, Finvarra is in some legends as the ruler of the dead. Interesting, considering Fisher's connection to Diaxis, aka Hell. All in all, I love this name reveal.
As this is all going down, Fisher can hear what's happening outside his tree prison. He can hear his mate call him by his true name and order him to rise up and fight, fight, fight. This is the first time Fisher is hearing his own true name, since he never knew it because his mother died before it was supposed to be shared with him on his 14th name day. However, Fisher knows his name deep in his soul. He can feel how it is part of him, has always been part of him. The endless dark shatters, the cold thaws. Fisher is back, baby! The command sets his soul alight. Darkness and vengeance pour out of Fisher as he obeys his mate's order. Get the fuck out of that tree, Fisher. He obliterates his oubliette cage. Whew, say that 5 times fast. And is free! I do love when we are in Fisher's POV and he's taking in the scene around him. He's so proud of his mate and grateful she's come to save him. And he's like, how did Nimmerel get in Belikon? Figure it out later.
Having heard Saeris say Fisher's real name, Belikon is riding a high right now.
Yep, because true names are hidden. They hold so much power over the individual that for those who know the true name, it is never uttered for the risk of bad people finding out. Like Belikon.
Homeboy Belikon thinks that he has now a one-way ticket to command Kingfisher to do anything he wants. So first on that list is to draw his sword out of Belikon's chest and use it to kill his own mate. The air around Kingfisher shivers. He can feel Belikon's will crashing over him, calling him forward, urging him to do what he just commanded him. And he reaches for his blade. So he does as is commanded. He walks over to Saeris, aiming the point at her throat while Belikon slowly gets to his feet. He's watching the show. He's eating the popcorn. But then Kingfisher swings his blade back, right back into Belikon's chest. Hold up! Kingfisher should not be able to fight Belikon's command. Quick pause. You'll notice that while Saeris in about chapter 50 starts switching Kingfisher's name to Khydan, we're here going to follow the text, which means if she is thinking Kingfisher, we're going to stick with Kingfisher's name. When she switches over to Khydan, that is when we will switch over as well. Just want to address that up front in case you're like, why are you still calling him Kingfisher, Nicole? But back to why Kingfisher was able to disobey this command. We just learned how powerful Fae names are. So how is this possible? Saeris commanded Kingfisher, using his true name, to break all of his oaths. But then, remember that breaking/undo rune that was gifted from the Hazrax? That rune broke the command that others would be able to have over Kingfisher's true name. So while Saeris was speaking his name and telling him to be free, breaking all of his previous oaths, she was simultaneously calling forth the Hazrax rune and undoing the magic that binds Kingfisher's true name, making sure that no one, including Belikon, will ever be able to use it against him or control him with it.
This revelation has Belikon pissed, to say the least. He fumes that as long as their friends are alive, he will always have leverage to control Fisher. I do worry that Lorth, Renfis, Danya, and others are still oathbound and can be controlled by Belikon. If their friends are in danger, then Fisher and Saeris will do what they have to protect them. But I don't know, Belikon. They do keep outsmarting you, but sure, you can hope. While Saeris is focused on attacking Belikon, Arias, again, somehow still alive from the god sword to his chest, sneaks up behind her with his blade out, ready to slash Saeris' neck. Out of nowhere comes our favorite fox, Onyx, and he's in full protective mode, launching himself at Arias, scratching and biting his jaw, cheek, and wrist. Onyx! Remember that Fisher was holding Onyx when he went through the Shadow Gate back in college. So Onyx arrived here in the Wicker Wood with him, and he has been with Fisher the entire time. Our furry little friend has been nothing but a nuance to Belikon and his men. Huzzah! He has bitten 3 of the guards, bit off Arias' finger, and when he wasn't doing that, he was yelping and scratching at Kingfisher's tree.
Arias' no blade attack on Saeris unfortunately hits Onyx instead. Onyx, no! Sadly, so very sadly, killing our furry little friend Onyx. More on this shortly. Arias lets out a victorious whoop, but he's fading fast. Good, you asshole! He's wobbling. He's staggering sideways while he's laughing maniacally. Saeris does not hesitate. She responds instantaneously and ruthlessly, burying her face into Arias' neck and ripping out his throat, leaving the snow covered in blood. God damn!
Vampire Saeris is in the house!
See, I love this energy. I fucking love it. Rip out more throats, Saeris. In that same moment, Kingfisher releases his magic and orders it to destroy. The smoke and shadow funneling down Arias' throat eviscerates him from the inside out, and Arias dies in extreme agony because the shadows in his throat, they're unable to scream. Good riddance, you ass!
Now let's turn our sights on Belikon, because finally Fisher has the upper hand on this Fae usurper who has ruined Fisher's life, his family, and most of the realm. Belikon caused his father's death and then falsely blamed him for the closure of the Quicksilver portals. He tormented Fisher since his youth and tried to get rid of him at every opportunity. He is the reason Fisher has been plagued by madness from the Quicksilver most of his life. Belikon literally murdered his mother. He stole a court and doesn't give 2 shits about its people. And in all of this, Fisher has realized that Belikon was actually always afraid of him and the threat he poses. And now Fisher is no longer oathbound to him. It's so freeing. Huzzah! So, Fisher, what are we going to do about that? After Saeris removes Solace from Belikon, Kingfisher grabs a hold of Nimrod. With a 3-2-1, he yanks her free from Belikon, leaving Belikon with access to his magic again. But Kingfisher is faster. Fisher sweeps the sword up around his head and swings as hard as he can at Belikon's neck. Not only does he cut clean through in one swing, but the sheer force of the blow sends Belikon's head spinning off into the trees and bouncing around the ground like a rogue soccer ball. The evil king has been beheaded. Huzzah!
You'd think that being decapitated and having your head literally used as a soccer ball would be a pretty telltale sign of you're dead. However, Kingfisher notes that Belikon is not dead because of whatever dark magic is running through his veins. I'm assuming that means triumvirate magic.
Yes.
Because that is the only reason it would make sense that he is not dead. As we learned last book, in order to kill one member of the Triumvirate, you have to kill all three. Which is why even with Malcolm decapitated and bursting into flames, I wonder if he's still alive? With how Fisher is saying that Belikon also is still alive, it makes me really think now that Malcolm would have to be also. But literally fucking how? Did they grow back a head? Like, you know how you could grow back a hand? Like, but it was smaller than before? So, like, just a little tiny head.
I swear I've seen that in movies before. I can't remember which one, but I've seen it before. They're like, little thumb. But all I can think of is a guard who does show up and having to search for the head with Belikon calling to him, "No, you buffoon, I'm over here."
See, I just see the little tiny thumb-sized head sticking out of an adult male's body, and it just has a little teeny tiny voice like this, and it talks it. But then that's going to be the big bad next episode in our next book. That just kills me.
I wonder if he does get his head back on. I
so
don't
then
know.
they just sew it back on? That's crazy.
There's magic
talk, Lexi.
involved. I don't know. So, Fisher is freed from his imprisonment, from being an oathbound Fae, and from the power of his true name. Orias is dead. Belikon is beheaded, but still alive. But you know what? We'll take our wins where we can. Fisher knows of still one place that Belikon cannot follow him. And hey, they need to go there anyway, to Diaxis and to its gate located in Ajun. But remember, he has been very against this idea when Lorth first brought it up last episode. But Fisher does understand now that it is the only way for them to stop this rot is to go through that gate to Diaxis. The guards are dead, but Fisher and Saeris know more are coming soon, so they better move fast to their destination. And very, very sadly, Saeris is devastated by the loss of Onyx as she holds his little body. I'm going to be entirely honest, friends. This part with Onyx is really hard for me. Last year, I had to say goodbye to my dog, who is my best friend for 12 years. And this is just one of those things that I don't know if I can cover it. I'm a blubbery mess when I read this every single time, and I don't know if I can talk about it yet. So, Saeris and Fisher race north going through Shadowgate after Shadowgate. One Shadowgate turns into 2, then 3, then 7, then 10, and it's not until the 12th gate that Saeris makes him stop. And remember, they have to go through these 12 Shadowgates, because if Fisher wields magic powerful enough, which is a Shadowgate, then Belikon can feel it and follow them up to 500 leagues away. So Fisher's goal is to get them as fast as possible out of that 500 league perimeter so that they can escape outside of Belikon's senses. Saeris just needs one moment to process everything that just happened, one moment to cry over Onyx. But it's a good thing for Saeris because they have indeed arrived at their destination, the mountainside just below Ajun. And on the map, this is super northern Yavelia. As Fisher reads the Rainbow Bridge poem to Saeris and tries to offer her comfort about sweet little Onyx, that he chose her and her soul because he wanted to help her more than any other and come to her as a friend when she needed him most, Saeris refuses to accept Onyx's death. She still needs her fox.
So thank goodness we have a Fairy God-Hazrax. Saeris notices the Hazrax's rune, meaning undo or break, is glowing. What color? It's glowing blue. This color is haunting me. Question for you real quick, Lex. Do you think that this is glowing because the Hazrax is near, or because the rune is being called forth to be used, or both? Maybe the Hazrax is purposefully making it glow so that she remembers she has this power?
Since the Hazrax kind of warns her not to use it, my guess is something maybe even within her is calling to use it, or the rune itself is reminding her of what she can do instead of the Hazrax reminding her through the rune. I know there's a very small difference there, but that's what I'm thinking.
I think you're right on the money there. Yes, yes, yes. Calling the Hazrax forth to show itself. Saeris finally gets the Hazrax, a grumpy Hazrax, to show itself, and we get a rather interesting line of description. She notices that under the stars, it looks more sickly, and she describes its slitted nose, gills at its neck, hairless, waxen skin. She thinks, quote, "I had seen something very similar in one of Foley's books." Alarm! 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 We know what Foley was pulling out for her. It was all information regarding the alchemists and their powers. So why would she recognize the Hazrax from one of those books? I looked for anything and I couldn't find any mention that we get earlier on in the book connected to this. But was there something that she read off page that was like, I'm going to call it like an alchemist god. I'm always sticking to the idea that the Hazrax is a god because I simply refuse to let it go now. Also, is this why it was mentioned earlier that Saeris is so close to figuring out what it is? Because she knows what it is deep in her subconscious? Earlier when the Hazrax was like, you're so close to figuring it out. And she was like, and we both were like, is she though? I wonder if this is a call to that, where it's like she's so close to figuring it out because she's read about it.
Maybe that research is paying off.
The very little that she did, yes, I agree.
But there is a very good reason Saeris has decided to call the Hazrax here. She needs to know if it can see the dead. She needs to know if Onyx has already moved into the beyond. If Onyx has moved on, then Saeris will have to accept that it is what it is. But if he hasn't, which he hasn't, then there's still hope. And exactly, he has not moved on yet. He's still sticking right by Saeris' side, even in death, not even aware of what has happened to him. He just needs to be near his person. This decides things for Saeris, because she has realized something important. Alchemists were feared by power-hungry rulers like Belikon and Madra, because they're capable of things others can't possibly do. Among everything else, alchemists chased immortality and could heal even wounds like holes in one's chest. Saeris is fully healed now from Belikon, grabbing her literal heart back in the Wicker Wood. Then there's what Tal told Saeris and what else we know about alchemists. They can have regenerative magic. So yes, in conclusion, Saeris is all three types of alchemists. I think that this is pretty confirmed now, right? But even the alchemists can't bring back the dead, no matter how hard they tried. Saeris, however, is confident in her ability to bring this little fox back. He's not a whole person like what the alchemists failed to bring back. They were always trying to bring back Fae, and this little fox is much smaller. And she knows that she is an extra powerful alchemist with regenerative magic. And, most importantly, she has the Hazrax Undo rune, where she can undo death for just a moment. And in that one little moment, she can push all her healing magic into Onyx, so he is revived and can stay alive after the undo spell.
Taking Onyx's little body from Fisher, Saeris drops to her knees in the snow and calls all of her magic into herself, ignoring the Hazrax and its concern for what she's doing, because never has this been done before and never should it ever be done. Saeris pushes on. The magic inside of her is starting to hurt now, clawing at her insides, trying to get out. The Hazrax gives one final warning. All magic has its limits. Proceeding will shatter the rune it gifted her, and she will no longer be able to use it to save anyone else. AKA, she will not be able to use it to free her other friends from their oaths, just as she freed Kingfisher. Saeris doesn't care. It's a problem for a later date. Have I mentioned this girl is impulsive? The Hazrax rune flares to life, lighting up the night as Saeris funnels her magic into the rune itself. And then she sees Death's door, Death standing on the other side of it. Oh, this is cool. And it's threatening to take Saeris should she not succeed in her goal. He's like, we did not have an appointment, madam. Pushing past the pain, blisters form on the back of her hands, but they only have a brief moment of existence before they burst open, leaving behind raw, singed flesh. Blech. With one last push, Saeris feels the door between life itself and then slams it closed. The coldness in her chest fully disappears, and Onyx's paw moves. He's still broken and bleeding, but he is alive. She only has one moment, though. She reaches for all of her regenerative magic and finds nothing. Dun dun dun! She used it all trying to undo death. Determined not to panic, she reaches beyond her magic, beyond her runes, beyond anything she knows, until she finally finds what she's looking for. A small kernel of energy that she thrusts into her body and into her Alchemarian shield, and then channels it all into the white fox. The world trembles as a shockwave ripples through Ajun, and Onyx is healed. He lives! But Saeris is not looking so good. She literally just accomplished something that never has been done before. Onyx is alive and running next to them as Fisher carries Saeris to Ajun Gate, past the bones of Nam Shakrai, where he fell all those centuries ago, and all the way to the Ajun Gate.
Before we move on to Ajun, let's talk about this choice to resurrect, because in all honesty, it is a pretty common occurrence in fantasy books, and it is certainly not the first time that we have had this conversation in our deep dives. So I personally believe that sometimes it works really well within the story. And other times, it does feel like plot armor. Now, in this instance, it is not a completed series, and I never like to speak too soon because who knows how it'll go. But focusing only here on book 2, here's my personal opinion. Please know I want Onyx to live. I celebrated when that little paw moved. And at the same time, I don't know, I was bawling like baby to the point where I actually needed to take a break from reading. And then it was fixed. And it wasn't just fixed like the next page. It took, like half a chapter or so to get to that point. But it felt like all of these emotions that I had, and I don't cry like crazy during most books here, but for me to have that kind of emotional impact and then it not really matter, I felt like all of those emotions and all that crying was not for any good reason.
It goes back to what we've been saying about consequences, I feel
Yes.
like. Where it's like, in this book, I feel like the things that should have major consequences are either not that big of a deal or they're resolved really quickly.
Yes.
And I agree that when you're put through the emotional ringer as a reader, I mean, first of all, what a high we all chase. But then to just have it not really, I'm not going to say not mean anything, but possibly.
But to kind of feel like the rug is pulled out from under you a little bit.
Yeah, it feels a little like whiplash, but not in the last 100 pages of a fantasy novel way. Like, we love that, like, oh my God, this plot twist. But I'm starting to get a little burnt out on the resurrection trope simply because I need those consequences. I like it when deaths mean deaths. I love it when authors are not afraid to kill off characters, but have it have meaning. That's a huge asterisk with it. I feel like this was a little bit more for shock factor versus for actual character progression.
Yeah, I agree. This was some really heavy plot armor. And again, it's like, I love these characters. It's okay to love the character and not want them to die and to not want to have there be that ultimate plot armor.
Yeah.
So, of course, there is a question, will Onyx play a larger role in book 3? And will this become central to the overarching story? I know that there's also the theory that Onyx is actually a person. And I don't think that is the case. I really do think that this is showing that your pet is part of your family. And I know that Callie does feel that way about her dogs. That's why I was crying like such a little baby, because it brought up some very emotional stuff for me. And I think that the bigger reason that this did have to happen here with Onyx was to eliminate Saeris' undo rune that is very all-powerful for a story. It served its purpose with Fisher's name change, and then it did need a reason to be gone. And this is a great, here's a lot of magic that has to be used, and for that to then be gone there.
I'm not going to lie, though. I almost would have preferred it to have eviscerated in her, rune arsenal for Kingfisher's true name. Because then that would have
absolutely worked.
I think that we could have seen this level of digging deep with magic, because she's undoing oaths that bind someone to something.
Yes.
And
that it's at birth. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of feel like that this level of consequence, again, going back to consequence, because yes, she did have a consequence with her rune breaking, but that could have been for Kingfisher. And I just feel like this was not needed.
As I'm thinking about this, I can't help but keep going back to this concept of costly sacrifices. Fisher says that Saeris made a costly sacrifice to save a friend. We know that there will be a steep cost for her to seal her Brimstone rune. I can't imagine how these would be connected, but that similar verbiage caught my attention, and I wanted to bring it up in a maybe coming back into the story kind of way. It's all about sacrifices.
Okay. I actually am really glad you brought that up, because that's a really great point, with that being a very central theme to this Fae Alchemy trilogy.
Yeah.
So I do see that as how it represents in the theme. I could see this having a repercussion or a through line for book 3, but it kind of goes back to what we've been saying since the opening of episode 1. It's hard to rate this book and give final thoughts with this book when we don't know where a lot of these storylines are going in book 3.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. All right, friends, we are at Ajun Sky. I'm so excited to be here. We were hoping we'd come here at some point in the series, but according to the people gathering on the parapet at the gate, the black tide comes. Jack Barlow is throwing candidates off. He's coming for them. Just kidding. I just get so excited when I see similar words from fantasy stories. But what is this black tide that is coming? It is 1,000 of Belikon's guards heading toward Fisher and Saeris with startling speed, armed with swords and bows. Fisher even notes that they should not have found them this quickly. And that is correct. He and Saeris sprinted through shadow gates to escape them. They should not have found them and gotten here so fast.
Okay, but seriously? How did they get here so quickly? Because especially Belikon, the man who would have ordered them to go, was literally decapitated. And secondly, this is one of those things where I'm like, oh, when we open up book 3, whenever they come back through the portal back to Evalia from Diaxis, because I really hope that happens at some point, I would assume that this is going to be a through line that we're going to see Belikon's men at Ajun Sky, and I can't wait to see what they were doing there and get reasons for this.
I keep thinking about how Madra seems to have known where to send the Zelvaran feeders, and how Belikon was able to grab Fisher from the Shadow Gate from so far away when they were moving from Kalish to Inishtar. I believe that Belikon and Madra are working with really strong magic that changes the rules of the game. And I think somehow getting those 1,000 soldiers caught up to Fisher and tracking where he's going in the first place is associated with Belikon wielding that extra power. The infamous black iron gates of Ajun slowly open for Fisher and Saeris, and they get inside just in time before Belikon's soldiers catch up. By the time these 1,000 soldiers get to the gate, it is once again closed, and no way in hell, get it, is Ajun opening it for Belikon's guys. Doesn't matter that there's 1,000 of them hurling their magic and weapons at the gate, it will not budge. Have I mentioned that there are 1,000 of them there that have caught up to Fisher and Saeris?
Lo! Who's this? Someone's coming to let our friends in! And he has a Scottish accent! It can only be Renfis. Turns out Renfis has been here at Ajun Sky the whole time! Welcome back to the story, Renfis of the Erythian, which we learn what the Erythian status means. After the Lupa Proelia killed Chakrai, the Horde left Ajun, and the people in the city came out to bury their dead. Ren's twin sister, Mirel, among them. Mirel had always loved Ajun, so Ren asked the city elders if she could be buried here. They gave her a burial site at the very tippy top of the mountain, a very high honor, in thanks for the sacrifices that she made to protect the Ajun Fae. Remember, she was burned alive by As soon as Mirel was laid to rest, Ren felt a burning pain inside of his chest, and he let out a terrible roar so loud it caused an avalanche. Watch out, Everlane. Not the roar I was talking about.
I know.
The other
Kingfisher roar.
Kingfisher roar. The other mourners who'd been burying their loved ones at the top of the mountain knelt with Ren and began to pray with him. None of the wolves had any clue what was happening. But then the Ajun Fae told him that as soon as their blood was one with the mountain, they belonged to it in a way. So because Ren buried his blood relative, his twin, here, he was now a member of the Ajun Fae. And only a member of the Ajun Fae can be called to join the knighthood here to guard the gate. What gate? Not the Iron Gate.
As it turns out, there has always been a city here, which is Ajun, because there has always been a gate between this world and another. Dun dun dun. It's similar to Quicksilver in many ways, but at the same time, it's not. Also, with Quicksilver, it can transport you to any realm's Quicksilver pool. Just focus on where you need to go. This portal, on the other hand, is strictly between Evalia and Diaxis. Long time ago, the gate would open by itself and it would not close. Foul creatures would use it as a doorway into this realm to cause chaos and terror. Not sure if that is the demons like Morthil or Njashin. I feel like if it was the phrase or something like it, ancient demons would come up at some point. And since no one could close the portal, including alchemists, the Knights of Erythian were created to guard this portal gate. These knights are imbued with an old line of powerful magic, and at all times there are 6 knights standing watch over the gate to protect the entire realm, channeling their special magic into wards that can prevent all manner of evil from spilling into this world. The knights take shifts to protect not only Ajun, but all of Evalia. This feels like the Knights of Erythian would be very useful with their power to ward, like, an entire realm from evil. Like what our crew has to do next book.
Oh yeah! Yes!
And like Nicole said, Renfus is a knight of the Arinthian. He has been since his twin sister died here at the battle and was laid to rest. No one has been called to replace the knights guarding it for centuries. Until now, when shit is hitting the fan.
Let's talk about this realm pool / portal, because this is the exact gate that Belikon sent Kingfisher through when he was an 11-year-old failing. Something has always been different about this pool. Not only was it left open and not stilled when Madras stilled all the rest of the Quicksilver pools, but Belikon declared that because it was left open when all the other gates were stilled, it was a sign that this particular gate would lead them to riches and glory. Whether he actually believed that is anyone's guess, because Belikon sent little 11-year-old Fisher here, put a sword in his hand. We don't know which one, but we know it's not Nimmerel because he got that much later in life. And Belikon declared that Fisher would be the first to go through this particular gate and behold the paradise that waited for them on the other side. Since this pool is different from all the other Quicksilver pools, Belikon said that Kingfisher will not need his relic that he received from his mother. Using the oath that Kingfisher just took from the Brimstone less than a week after his mother died. I'm going to ignore the fact that it's canon from book 1 that they take the oath in front of the Brimstone at 21, but alas, fucking Zareth has meddled with this timeline. We're just going to brush over that.
So I have a theory on that.
Okay.
From the way that Fisher explains it, I got the context that Belikon forced him to kneel before the Brimstone and swear his oath early because Belikon knew this would be the only way to control Fisher now that his mother was gone.
I actually agree with you. I think that makes a lot of sense. The only thing is, I'm going to put an asterisk next to is I wish that was written in the text where it could be canon, where it's like that is like immediately like, oh, that makes total sense, rather than us having to guess the in-betweens.
Fair enough.
But because Fisher was already under the oath, it was very easy for Belikon to command Fisher to go into the pool. And as soon as this young failing's feet touched the liquid ore, Kingfisher knew he was going to die. And that was when he was transported into Diaxis, or Hell, as Kingfisher calls it. But that's all we know from what occurred in the realm. Belikon and his men waited for 2 hours, and when Kingfisher did not return, Belikon pretended to be devastated over the loss of his stepson and his last remaining link to his dead wife. But eventually, the pool erupted, and Kingfisher was spat out, and that signature silver rim was now in his eyes. Now, how he got Quicksilver in his eyes in the realm of Brimstone through a pool that was not Brimstone, I would also like to know.
I wonder if it might not have been from this portal necessarily.
Yes.
But maybe it had to do with his interaction with the gods.
That is exactly what
because he was
I'm
tortured too. Yeah.
Exactly what I'm thinking. Luckily, one of the knights returned his relic immediately to him, quieting the Quicksilver noise. But this left Belikon mighty disappointed. He thought he had successfully disposed of Kingfisher. So instead, the king of the Avelian Fae sent Kingfisher to one of his war camps to start learning the ways of being a warrior. At age 11, with newfound Quicksilver in his eye. Poor Fisher! This is the day that the pool has closed for good, except it has opened 3 times since, each without warning.
We talked about this in an earlier episode, so I don't want to rehash too much. But yes, there is a clear timeline discrepancy that we're working with around when Fisher's mother died. In Quicksilver, we learned that Fisher was 11 years old when his father disappeared through the Quicksilver. All the Quicksilver portals were stilled, and his mother and him were forced to leave Kalish and go to the Winter Palace where she would be Belikon's bride. Also in Quicksilver, we find out that Everlane is 247 years younger than Fisher, and that it took their mother a long time to fall pregnant with her. We may have gotten the reason for Carrion being 700 years younger than Fisher and Co. here in Yavelia, despite supposed to be the same age, but there doesn't seem to be an explanation for how in Brimstone, an 11-year-old Fisher's mother just died and he's forced to travel through this portal. There is no feasible way for Edina to go to the Winter Palace, fall pregnant with his sister, then birth her and be killed within the same year. And then there's of course the 247-year gap between the siblings. Could there be another timeline explanation we don't know about? During our interview with Callie, she said the timeline differences are a 2.5 importance scale out of 5, so right in the middle. There could very well be more that we don't know about, and this will make sense then, like Carrion's age compared to the Fae in Avelia from Quicksilver, or, and I unfortunately think this is more likely, it is an error. And it makes me sad that that is the case for 2 books now.
All of this brings us to why Renfis is here in Ajun Sky as a Knight of the Aristian now. Since 11-year-old Fisher came out of the gate and it closed again, this portal has only opened unannounced 3 times in the last 1,700 years-ish. But its most recent time was about a week ago when a beast crawled out and killed all 6 knights on watch and then dragged their bodies back into the portal when it left. Oh dear!
Well, what do we know happened about a week ago? The Quicksilver from Everlane's earrings were whispering to Saeris to open the gate. And somehow, she opened it, and this beast came through. Poor guys.
So I'm not going to say that Saeris is responsible for all 6 knights dying, because she didn't know.
She didn't know!
She didn't know!
And we still are very curious about how that all went down. I know we talked a lot about and speculated a lot during that episode, but just flagging it here. And also, how was that only a week ago?
Oh my God. That's the thing is, like, when we're deep diving a book for so long and it is such a lengthy book, it's hard to remember sometimes that these are happening in such condensed timelines. When Saeris unknowingly murdered 6 people, this led to the first time in centuries that new knights had to be called to replace the fallen members. That is where Ren comes into play. He was summoned while on a trip to Ballard as a result of this massacre. Since then, the portal has opened every day for a period of 3 hours at a time. Remember when Everlane was thrashing in bed, screaming, "The gate is open, the gate cannot be closed, the gate is open, the gate is open, the gate is..." That was assumably during one of these 3-hour time periods when the pool was open. And now the monsters within the pool, they are waiting for these wards that are keeping them locked out to break down once and for all, making the portal open for them 24/7, and all the monsters can come out and wreak havoc on Avelia. They know it's not a matter of if it'll happen, but when it's going to happen. And even as Saeris approaches this pool, she can feel the monsters on the other side wanting Avelia to burn, should they be able to get through freely.
I wonder if them being able to break down these wards is in any way connected to the rot infecting this realm.
Possibly.
Even because the Knights of Aristian are still imbuing their magic for these wards right now, and it's not working as well. So I'm curious about how their magic is no longer working as well and how they are able to break through these wards that they are providing. So with all that super scary stuff said about this gate, that is where Fisher and Saeris need to go. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now while the gate is still open within that 3-hour time window. The rot is moving too fast, feeders could show up anytime, anywhere, and it might be too late by tomorrow when it reopens. So Saeris needs to seal her Brimstone rune ASAP. And remember, it only has one source, through the gate and into the other realm. Fisher does not like this option one bit, but Lorith is right. This is the only way to secure any Brimstone without killing the fire sprites.
I do wonder if being stuck in the oubliette for, however long he was, like about a day, I wonder if that made Fisher finally realize, okay, yeah, Lorith was right. We need to do this. We can't keep running away. Like, we have to take action. I'm going to go with that.
I think that also it's just like so many things are happening, and like we were saying last episode, it's like you do have an option here. It's just not a fun one. And Fisher is realizing there are no fun options here. We just got to do something.
3 options on the table. None of them are fun. Like we mentioned, this is not an average Quicksilver pool. Quicksilver pools connect all realms. This one only connects to Diaxis. We don't know why this gate is so different, other than the fact that it's, connected to hell. But as Saeris goes through it, it sticks to her, going up her nose, coating the inside of her tongue. Unlike when she passes through Quicksilver pools, it feels like it's rolling off of her. This is more like drowning in a tar-like substance. Gross! Which Fisher is adamant that she does not swallow. I wonder if that's what happened to him and why the Quicksilver lodged itself into him. I like what you were saying earlier, though, about when he was in this realm when he was 11, he had some kind of interaction with the gods, and that's what gave him the Quicksilver. It is interesting, though, that this is described as rot tasting, and I will admit that can be a little confusing because this is not the rot that we've been fighting against this whole book. Personally, I would have made a different word choice. I do know that there are some readers who are a little confused by that.
I think it's like junky, yucky magic. Saeris thinks how it just doesn't feel right. Back in Ajun, she can feel the monsters wanting to come through. So my guess is those monsters are in this like void space, in like that darkness and the yucky magic and all of that.
Oh, I thought she was either referring to Arson, so the dragon, who she can feel like almost on the other side, and that was like the monsters, or the multitudes of people who are going to be cheering for their next meal when they're dangling upside down via chains.
See, all this like beasts and foul creatures and things like that, like it really does feel like they are, I'm going to say, monsters in its own way. Like, all I can think, and I highly doubt this is accurate, but I think of like the orcs in Lord of the Rings and how like they're in like this yucky goo and they're created in that yucky goo. Well, what if there's just like this ether space of a bridge between Diaxis and the world? I have been watching way too much Stranger Things. Oh my God.
I love this. Meanwhile, all I can see is Gima and his demon world, and all I can see is these people living in Diaxis looking like the demons in Gima's world. And they're like, they're like, oh yeah, that would totally work. Yeah.
So quick heads up for our listeners right now. You'll notice that Saeris starts calling Fisher by his true name, Khydan, midway through chapter 50. We always like to honor what characters call one another. So since Saeris switches to Khydan, this is when we at Fantasy Fangirls will as well. While initially reading, neither of us minded the name change because we feel it makes sense for Saeris to embrace this name wholeheartedly. It's part of her mate's soul, which makes it indirectly like a piece of her too. His true name represents his freedom and all the important things about this particular name that Nicole had been saying. This piece of him was missing, and now it's like he's whole. And by calling him his true name that feels so right for his character and therefore for Saeris, I personally totally get it. So goodbye to the name Kingfisher. We had a great run, and hello, Khydan.
Saeris already knew that this portal was going to be very different, but stepping through it is another beast in and of itself. Get it? Beast, because she faces a dragon, because on the other side of it, there's literally a fucking dragon. It's so hot. Not the dragon, the air. It's painful. Like, I don't know, maybe the dragon is hot. I don't know.
I bet it is. I bet it is. Yeah. Oh my God. All I can imagine is the dragon.
You're a lady dragon.
I like big butts and again not lie.
The air reeks of sulfur. What a transition, Nicole. And Saeris is met with a wall of extreme heat, leaving her lungs and eyes burning. Hello, Brimstone. Even after having spent her entire life in a desert, the heat of this place is unimaginable, even compared to how hot it was during the reckoning in Zul'Varun.
You know when someone from a realm with only 2 suns is hot? It is like hot, hot, hot. This is like people from Arizona getting hot outside. I don't know how you all do it. I am in awe of how you live in the desert.
I can already see the tag that we're going to get from our mod Anna being like, listen! Everything around these two is pitch black, and it's not until Khydan cracks open an even light glow stick. No, I am not joking. It is literally a glow stick. It is so funny that Saeris is able to see still nothing. The darkness here is thick. And just to make things even more challenging, they are here on a time limit. With the heat, Saeris can only be here for 2 hours or else her body will literally cook because her body is not made for a place like this. Note that as Khydan is saying it, he says that you will need to leave or your body was not made for a place like this, not you and I will need to leave. I think that this is because he does not have that internal time clock here, given that he is half god and gifted powers from the literal gods of the underworld.
As Khydan and Saeris walk through the pitch black, guided by their little even light glow sticks to light their way, big glowing orange-red eyes pierce through the dark. Hello, dragon! Yes, dragons are officially on the page now in Fae Alchemy series. And yes, I mean in the main books, we were already excited from the bonus chapter. Speaking of that dragon from the bonus chapter, this giant dragon with black scales is nom-nom-nom-nom-nom's mommy. Oh yeah, Khydan killed her son. Not a good start. This dragon is Arson, which I love that little tie-in to sounding like arson, like, you know, fire.
Like arson,
anyway.
yeah.
Yes. She is the keeper of the gate and has been guarding it for 2,000 years. Never has a meal walked willingly in here. Dragons and Diaxes are today's library topic, so I'm going to save my dragon lore dump for then, as much as I want to go on and on right now. Khydan tells Saeris not to run because she's definitely thinking about going back through that portal, and he's taking the lead here with the dragon. But the dragon wants Saeris to answer. I do love the little side note of Nimrel kicking out so much smoke, which Saeris wonders if it's Morel's spirit reacting to the presence of a dragon.
I personally wonder if it's the fact that it's in, I'm going to call it its homeland, but it's not really its homeland. It's like, it's the land of the shadows. So I wonder if that's one of the reasons it's like acting all excited. Arisen has quite the special gift. She's able to look into minds and see literally everything. Khydan has trained himself to protect against her probing, but there was not enough time for Saeris to learn such a skill. This is why he has not told her about his half-god heritage. He doesn't want Arisen to know. But Khydan did not guard how he himself killed off Nom 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 Nom, aka her only surviving offspring. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that she did not kill Kai and Saeris right off the bat. Like, that's actually kind of surprising.
Saeris is being Saeris and accuses the fire-breathing, enormous, very dangerous dragon with 3-foot-long teeth of hiding and waiting to do her master's bidding. Naturally, Arisen gets a little pissy, though I do love how Saeris fully acknowledges she's insane, and maybe that's what she needs to be to make it out of this alive. I feel like that's very FMC spirit here. It's Fisher who answers who this master is, and considering what we're about to learn, this is very important information. This dragon's master is Styx, Lord of the Charred Eyrie, and if you're wondering what an eyrie is, it's a large nest or dwelling. King of dragons! He is this dragon's master, who she must obey. In Evelia, Styx is known as the god of shadows. Yes, shadows! But this is new to find out he is king of the dragons. All these titles that Styx has seems kind of badass, I'm not gonna lie. And obviously I have so many questions, but I won't even get into those right now.
I cannot wait to meet him next book.
Oh my god, I know,
so
right?
excited!
Fisher insists he and his mate come as ambassadors of their realm and requests an audience with Styx. Quote, per the rules of engagement between our realms, etiquette, and then he's cut off. So there are established rules of engagement between their realms. How in the world does that work with these bad creatures coming through? I'm not quite sure. Is it somehow related to Khydan's family having an arrangement with Styx here? And those are the rules of engagement he's referring to. Ooh. That's kind of what I'm leaning toward.
I like that. I like that a lot. With no warning, the dragon Arisen spews a jet of stinking superheated air followed by a plume of fire and molten rock. Brimstone! Hey, we need that! Saeris attempts to throw up her shield, but she's not fast enough, and the brimstone tears right through it. The flames are barely missing their heads and slamming into a wall behind them as Kai and Saeris hunch over each other on the floor. Saeris grips Khydan so tightly her hands start to go numb, but her brimstone room starts to tingle and glow the more and more brimstone Arisen spews at them. I'm wondering what would have happened if she literally just went and like put her hand up and just, do you think it would be enough to seal it? Probably not, because she says she's called to it, but she can't reach it. I think that means like magically she can't reach it.
I also don't think that she's prepared enough yet, whatever that might mean. Yeah.
I also think she needs to submerge herself in brimstone, which actually brings up a point, because if she needs to submerge herself in brimstone, wouldn't that negate this whole 2-hour time limit thing?
That's a good point. Although we don't know if that is the same rules as were applied with Quicksilver.
True.
I think there's something very different with the brimstone seal, because there's a lot more complexities and sacrifices and things like that associated with it.
However, there is what she learns about the Tree of Prema earlier in the book, which includes brimstone. And the Tree of Prema, in order to seal the shield, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And that's just for the Tree of Prema as a whole. Because remember earlier when she's reading and it says the Tree of Prema, in order to seal your runes, you need to become one with it, and da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, yes.
So that's for all the Tree of Prema.
True. However, becoming one with it might not necessarily mean submerging yourself in it.
That's true. Maybe she'll need to breathe fire, and that's how she becomes one with it. She becomes a dragon.
Saeris wonders if the dragon didn't direct her fire on them and instead made it a warning, because this dragon sees that they are at a nexus in the threads of fate. If Saeris and Khydan die, billions of lives and millions of realms will also die. So maybe this dragon understands that if she kills them right now, she will also eventually die too. Do you think this argument would work on Belikon? Like, just kidding. But something to think about. Arson's reasoning, however, for sparing them is so Khydan will be brought before Styx for judgment. After all, Khydan has a crime to answer for, the murder of her offspring. She'll let the undergods of Diaxis charge Kai with murder, and they'll probably give him a more painful death than she could with fire. So from her perspective, yay for him getting what he deserves, which is torture.
While Arson spares them, she still knocks them out. But when Saeris does open her eyes, they are not in a better position. They are chained up by the ankles, being dangled upside down in a hall 10 times the size of the Hall of Tears. Whoa! Above them is a statue of a large robed figure who's holding the chains. I'm assuming this is a depiction of Styx. There's another rotting corpse hanging from a different set of chains held by the statue. And oh shit, that person has a white cape. So this is one of the Knights of Aristian who was taken while on guard that Saeris unknowingly killed. But wait, let's make things a little worse. Because below them, there are thousands of people cheering and celebrating, quote, something monumental. Bad, 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 bad. Like super, super, super bad. I do wonder if these Fae are celebrating the fact that they know the gate will open soon and they're ready to like storm Avelia.
So I thought that they were celebrating that they have Khydan and Saeris, specifically Khydan here to answer for his crime. But you're right, Saeris does notice that they have weapons strapped to them. And then the two brothers are going to be dressed for battle. So,
That's exactly what I think is happening.
As Saeris and Khydan are being lowered down toward the crowd, the descriptions we get of these thousands of people are that they are sickly pale, probably from being in the dark all the time. They are evenly split between male and female. And get this, some are Fae and some are human. Once again, I have so many questions about how this came to be. I also find it so interesting that Saeris can feel her Quicksilver energy within her chest begging to be unleashed. The Quicksilver rune is awake and alert, and I don't think it's only because it's responding to Saeris in a pickle. I think it has to do with this realm and being close to the god, or something to that effect. Saeris and Khydan are lowered to the center of the grand hall, a circle formed in the center of the crowd, where Khydan wastes no time killing a male and taking the arm off a female. Real quick, the fact that she doesn't even dare cry as her arm is chopped off really just show the culture here. You do not cry even when you get your arm chopped off. But even with these two attacks, everybody just stay calm, okay? Love Khydan with that. Here at the center of the crowd, we're introduced to two new characters, Githrand and Crave. They are almost identical in features and stature, so I believe that they are brothers or even twins. But Crave has sunken black pits for eyes, and Githrand has glowing red coals in his eyes. One has a much lower voice, and the other slightly higher. They are both commanding, with long black hair knotted in the most elaborate war braids. They are dressed for battle. Based off of what we learn with shadow magic, these two brothers are half gods and seem to command these halls. So I'm going to call them middle management to the big boss Styx.
Not back to our fucking HR assignments in this.
Oh, there is no HR here in Diaxis. I'll tell you that right now. The way Crave says Khydan and Saeris are warm bloods makes me guess they are not alive in the same way. And Githrand says there's a scent on Saeris he doesn't like. I'm wondering if this scent is the vampire in her, or it could be Zelvarin, or that she's an alchemist. The possibilities of Saeris's uniqueness are truly endless.
It was a very nice way of saying the possibilities of her smelliness are endless. Crave and Githrand are mighty interested in something Khydan is holding. That is Nimmerel. Now, Nimmerel is a god sword, so it's not surprising that these two distinguished gentlemen have their eyes on it, especially considering how this is a sword that could, quote, end worlds in the right hands, and even more especially considering that they have a sad imitation of Nimmerel in their own hands. But then Khydan says it was a gift from the gods.
So real quick, Saeris notes how even here, Khydan has no choice but to tell the truth. While I think Kai knows exactly what he's doing as he tells the truth right now, I don't think she's right. He can lie now. He's not oath-bound anymore because his true name broke it for him to be freed from the tree and Belikon.
But then Crave and Githrand mentioned that this is a weapon from, quote, one of the dead houses. which... What? I'm assuming that Crave is referring to the other gods, since Khydan got his sword from Bel and Mithin, as the dead houses. I would not be surprised if they refer to the gods as the dead houses, or maybe the other gods who aren't Styx or any of the undergods. But this might give us some really interesting insight into how Styx is going to act when we meet him next book. We're highly assuming we're meeting Styx, but I think that's a given.
Yes, we might have a bet to see how early makes his appearance, but I do think that we're going to get him.
Definitely.
I'll call it within the first 5 chapters or something like that.
I was going to say within the first chapter.
Possibly.
If Styx is the ruler here, or at least one of them, and his subjects are referring to the other gods as the dead houses, it would seem that Styx does not hold the other gods, like Zareth, Bal, and Mithin, in very high regard.
That's certainly the impression Zareth gave back at the end of Quicksilver. Khydan being here and vulnerably walking into this realm could be Styx's opportunity to wipe Kai off the map to plant a new universe tree that Zareth said his siblings wanted to do. But none of that which we know from Zareth at the end of Quicksilver seems to line up with this version of the God of Shadows. So there's a big, crucial piece missing here about whether Styx is indeed brothers with Zareth. And obviously, there's a million other pieces to this Diaxis puzzle that we don't know yet. But I am now wondering, are they technically brothers?
I would love the tension it would cause if they're in a meeting with Styx. I say meeting. It would be like over a fire pit with Styx. And Styx is like, what's stopping me from killing you both right here and
That's
just
the
restarting the
room
universe?
With sorry,
the conference. Don't you get me back in my office assigning. I will assign Styx
the
as
God's
CEO.
conference room with the Zoom.
I do wonder, because I think that would be really delicious tension at the very beginning of like, I could literally wipe you two off the map, and that would really bring that full circle moment with Zareth from the end of Quicksilver into the story as well.
Yes. Indeed.
But then Crave says about Nimmerel, quote, "It's one of the forgotten blades of our ancestors." So I'm assuming he's referring to all of the gods as their ancestors, which, considering that these two are half gods, that would make sense. But why are they referring to, because this is a Bal and Mithin sword, why would they be referring to Bal and Mithin as one of their ancestors? Would this mean that half gods are children of all the gods?
So I wonder if the dead houses he's referring to are dead houses within the undergods, like houses that died out. That's at least what it sounds like it should infer. Although apparently Nimmerel is older than this kingdom of Diaxis, which is older than Evelia. I'm going to say it's like OG undergods. And here's what I also think. Somehow Bal and Min got a hold of it. They're mischievous enough to get up to some trouble with a sword from the underworld. And I do not mean that as an innuendo. No, I don't mean it like
that. I love this novella. This is great. A heist between the two twins. That would be awesome.
I don't think that it was theirs to give. I don't know how they would have gotten it, but they're mischievous. So
I love
something happened with all of that.
This is canon in my head. This is fully canon.
And we know they're horny too, so maybe they wanted to get up to some mischief in the underworld.
Crave. Ooh. Githran with your deep voice. Ooh.
Also, how can Nimmerel end worlds? Fisher has had it for 1,000 years, and then he says that it's been defending Evelia for 400, hence why I thought Ajun Gate battle was 400 years ago before Brimstone. My point is, does Khydan know that his sword has this level of power? And how will he access it? Not in an end worlds kind of way, but in a save the world kind of way.
I hope save the world.
Especially since it couldn't kill fucking Belikon.
Okay, that's a great point.
But it does smell like death. Is that because it's a death sword, or because of Morel dead in there? I know that's really dark, but it's something to wonder. Or maybe because it's killed a lot of people.
I think it's because it's killed a lot of people, but I love the idea that Githran and Crave are just saying hello to Morel. Like, I love that. That's so funny.
Well, and she's in Nimmerel like, I want to fight him. Let me at him. Khydan is insistent that he knows his place here and that he knows what's about to happen next. I'm guessing that he knows that he's about to prove himself equal. But Githrind is like, nah, buddy, you're about to suffer for what you did to Arison's child. Plus the fact that Khydan killed Aerith, like we talked a lot about in early Brimstone episodes, and how Aerith worshipped these undergods. Remember, he was a vampire who was the keeper of Evenlight until Kai, formerly known as Fisher, killed him. Aha, so he was not just a religious leader in Evelia, he was Styx's emissary. And Khydan severed Styx's only thread of power in Evelia, weakening him. What if the trade is Khydan replacing Aerith as an emissary, reestablishing that thread of power? It would have to not harm anyone in Evelia, because otherwise Khydan would rather die and he would never do it. No. But just think it, just noodle on that.
I love this idea.
Githrind is all too happy to share what's about to go down. Saeris will watch as they dismember her mate piece by piece, then do unspeakable things to her and make her a breeding mare. You do not say that to Khydan, though, buddy. A powerful blast of shadows and smoke tear out of Khydan. The magic creates a tall, semi-translucent wall between the crowd of Dyaxons, our two main characters, and Githrind and Crave. Just in case these brothers command them to attack, there's now a wall to make it a little bit more difficult. Kai shrugs off the magic that bound him like it's no big deal, making Saeris wonder how he does that, because she's still chained up. How indeed? Because he's one of these guys. Their magic comes from the same origin. He can shrug it off because it's his magic too. At least that's how I understand it. Mind to mind, promising his mate he will explain things as soon as they're safe, we get Crave and Githrind's stunned and furious reactions to Khydan's extremely powerful shadow magic.
This is the moment with your partner when you like look at them and it's that look of, we're gonna have a conversation in the car on the ride home.
Shadow magic is their magic, but what the heck? It's nothing compared to Khydan's shadow powers that overpowers their shadow magic very easily and sends them flying. This is crazy. Shadow magic does not belong in Evelia. How did Khydan get this power? Here's the real kicker though. Only half-gods can wield shadows. Plot twist!
This was so good. Oh my God. I also have 40 million questions because Khydan says he got the shadow magic from the same place that he got the sword. He got the sword in the god realm that we assume is Zareth's realm, considering this seems to be Styx's realm, unless Styx just walks around this world like the other gods used to walk around Evelia.
I didn't take it as the literal same place, but rather same place like from different gods, that's for sure, but both still gods who gifted him his powers and then his weapon.
But this does bring up a question of when did he get his shadows? Was it before his trip to Dyaxis as an 11-year-old or after? We know that he can travel to the god realm with Zareth without a Quicksilver pool, and because of the Quicksilver in his eye, and we know that he's been to that god realm a few times before he got Nimmerel. So I'm assuming one of those times maybe Styx was there and just booped Khydan and gave him shadows.
Oh, let's see here. Anything I have to say is an argument that Styx is in Kai's DNA, so to speak. Maybe not his biological father, but connected in some deep way that would give the same kind of meaning. We already know another example of this exists with Malcolm being the vampire's father, but not like their biological father. I keep going back to the verbiage that the gods gifted these powers to Khydan's father, and Khydan got these powers from his father. There's also the fact that Kai is so much more powerful than these other two half-gods. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think Khydan was born with his powers.
I like that. I guess then it would mean like I got this from the same place that I got the sword. Would just mean that the gods just gifted his powers upon birth?
Maybe.
We're going to get into Daddy Watch much more. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, go for it.
Let's get to the very last lines of this book. Because as he ignores Crave's question, asking who Khydan is, where he can wield these shadows, Khydan says, quote, "I've come for a dragon, as is my right. Summon our father. Tell him I've come to make a trade." We'll get to the father part in a minute, but let's first unpack the rest. I've come for a dragon, as is my right. Styx is king of dragons, so does that mean his children, however we're going to interpret that, have the right to a dragon? That's certainly how it seems, though that makes me wonder if Crave and Githrind have dragons. Or did Finrend have a dragon? He sure doesn't seem like he did.
That's a great fucking point!
Does someone who gets a dragon have to do something, and Khydan has done it, proving himself worthy of a dragon. I'm guessing getting a dragon is Khydan's ticket, his final card to pull to get access to the Brimstone. It's like Brimstone belongs to the dragons. It is their source to grant access. And Saeris needs the Brimstone to seal her rune to then be able to save everyone. I'm still sticking with my theory that Khydan can fly his dragon all over Avelia and the dragon breathes brimstone all over the rotted areas. But anyway,
You're welcome.
then there's the final sentence of the book. I've come to make a trade. Remember that Edina has a page in the journal that says, read on after the trade. I think whatever she says will have to do with preparing Saeris to seal the Brimstone. Or maybe it's a whole explainer of how Styx is Khydan's father, and we get it all nice and delivered to us on a silver platter early in the next book.
Honestly, I need it. At this point, I need it.
But let's talk about this ominous sounding trade, especially with so much sacrifice foreshadowing throughout this book. Renthis said that there would be consequences, more sacrifices to be made if they were to go here to Diaxis. I'm guessing it has something to do with this trade. Khydan will have to sacrifice something very dear to make it happen. His lineage and/or connection to a god is out in the open, and I bet there will be some consequences around that too, that he has not been ready for all his life. But this also sounds a lot like what Saeris will have to do to seal the Brimstone rune. Edina told her that sealing this magic to her soul will come at a great cost, and she will change if she walks down this path. Remember, like the intensive therapy session. I don't think these sacrifices are necessarily related, but Khydan and Saeris are going through some shit early next book. One thing that I do feel very certain of with this trade is that Khydan would never be willing to trade anything that would put his mate in harm's way. With Morel in his godsword, I can't imagine him giving Nimmerel up in the trade. That would be my first guess, but that's not the case, so let's keep going. Maybe it's his shadow magic that he'll have to give up. Although that also would not make sense with Styx having a hand in him getting his shadow magic in the first place. It could be an oath to Styx, or it could be a blood bond where Kai has to give Styx a favor. It could have something to do with Zareth. Knowing that Khydan is still hiding a lot, I wouldn't be surprised if what he's willing to bargain comes out of left field and is connected to him being a half-god. I don't know, like, what do you think their trade is referring to, Nicole?
I'm not going to lie. I think Nimmerel is still highly on the table, even with Morel being in the sword. I could actually see him wanting to give up his shadow magic or half of it or his half godlike status. I'm going to throw something out of complete left field. And let's say it is just for a favor, but Styx will have to call that favor like in the trade meeting. I could see Styx wanting them to do something to Zareth or interfere with Zareth in some way. Kai is Zareth's champion. So I could see him having to give up that champion status or betray his master is not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Maybe they would have to kill Zareth. I don't see a world in which that would go very well, but I feel like it's going to have to be something where I could see it being a plot B next book where they have to go off and do it. I also really, really like your idea from earlier of him having to take Aerith's place and be the ambassador for Avelia. So, but I would want that to have some major consequences to him and what that would look like.
Maybe the trade is that Kai has to kill Madra because she's been a thorn in Styx's side too, and it all just comes together so nicely.
God, I hope not. It is time for the final Daddy Watch, where we try to determine and make our final decisions on whether or not we believe Styx, Lord of the Charred Eyrie, King of Dragons and God of Shadows, is indeed Finryn, Khydan's father. Let's start with the argument against Styx and Finryn being the same person. First, Finryn is Fae and considered to be dead. Not very godlike. Second, from what we know about Finryn, he just hasn't given off god vibes. Like we mentioned, he doesn't have a dragon. God. Third, he was wielding shadows in the Orlena bonus chapter, but that could just mean he is a half god. Fourth, in Diaxis, Githrin and Crave mention our ancestors. I called this to attention earlier, and they were referring to the gods. Given that it's plural, it sounds like here, if you're a half god or a child of the gods, it's not I am a son or a daughter or a child in a literal form, but it's more like everyone's my daddy in the pantheon. It's mentioned that Finryn had been doing research on alchemists. This is not necessarily a vote against Finryn being a god, but gods gods do seem to be this all-knowing. We saw this from Zareth last book. Oh my god, was he all-knowing?
I think that Finryn was gifted his shadow magic partly because of what he was working on. And this is all something to help Finryn and now his son be able to help the world.
Yes, I could totally see that. Sixth, because we're not done yet with the arguments against, we got a whole story about Finryn losing a toe and making a deal with the Graven. I pulled this then, I'll pull it now. Losing a toe is not very godlike. And seventh, quote, the gods had gifted my father with his shadows so that he might do good with them. I mean, literally, the gods gifted my father with shadows. That right there sounds like Finryn is a half-god who was given powers, just like Khydan is a half-god who was given powers. How Finryn then gave his shadow magic to Khydan, I'm not entirely sure. So, that was the argument against. 7 points. Now for the argument for Styx being Finryn, aka Finstyx. First, in the Quicksilver bonus chapter, The Fox That Boots the Dress, Fisher says that he got his shadows from his father. I literally just said this a second ago. It does seem to be in alignment that no matter what, Fisher got his powers from Finryn, from his father, giving that the father line here at the end of the book. It does seem to connect those two together, meaning Styx. Second, Githrin and Crave's shadows appear to be way less strong. Is that because they're more distantly related to Styx, and Styx is directly related to Fisher, giving him more powers? Although considering Khydan says summon our father at the end, that might be a moot point. Third, in the Orlena bonus chapter, it is mentioned that Finryn speaks into Orlena's mind. This is mighty powerful and something normal Fae cannot do. So could this be a god power? Fourth, this is complete speculation. All of this is technically, but this one especially. We know that there was a time manipulation with Carrion and Finryn when they traveled to Zul'Varin. Like we discussed in episode 2, could Finstyx use god daddy magic to manipulate time for him and the Dianthus heir, given that 700-year gap from when they left Avelia and when they entered Zul'Varin? Fifth, there's multiple mentions of Finryn and then immediately talking about the gods. That could be some literary connection symbolism. Sixth, the Graven story. It's mentioned that Finryn had shadows, but nothing else. We're going to ignore the fact that I literally just brought up a point that he was talking into someone else's mind. Could this be a nod to the god of shadows being pretty all-encompassing in that one bucket? And seventh, the final line of this book, summon our father. All right, it is time. Make your final decision. I think I know what yours is.
I have been adamant about Finryn not being Styx, but I'm going to be honest, suddenly in this final moment as I look at summon our father, it does make it very hard to stick with that. However, I am sticking to my gut. Finryn is not Styx. I think that there is another godlike way to father someone, almost like bless them. Not like how Zareth did with making Fisher his champion. I mean, Finryn, through Styx or his power from Styx, was able to gift his son Kai shadow magic. There's also an oracle in the mix who is very much already a wild card, so there could be prophecy about Khydan, and Styx needed to ensure he got his shadow magic, doing it through Finryn, so Khydan can save the world with his shadow magic. That doesn't seem like something Styx would want based on contextual clues about him, but I'm doing my best.
I think you and I are going to actually end up on the same side in this bet. And I'm actually a little sad because a part of me was like, should I just go with Finstyx is the same person just to make that bet for book 3? But I have to go with my gut as well. Listing off the analysis against Finstyx, I started being like, yeah, I think that this has to be a thing, especially because there's that line that the gods gifted my father's shadows. That right there locked it in for me, that Finstyx is not the same person. It is Finryn and then Styx. Now, what that's going to look like next book, I do think we're going to see Styx and he's going to talk to Khydan and say, my child, my son, all those kinds of things.
Yes, definitely.
Just like Malcolm would have done in the Vampire Court. So as much fun as it would have been to have that bet, I do think you and I are on the same side. It is a more figurative father versus literal. Although, I'm not going to lie, having that as the cliffhanger, you and I flipping out over that, that was very fun. I'm not going to lie.
That is something that I love about this book, is after you read that last sentence, it makes you want to go back through and reread it with all these new contextual clues. And
even
I always
book 1
appreciate
too.
that.
Like, I felt I went back and read Quicksilver and then Brimstone again. And there's so much foreshadowing for Khydan being that half god. And
Yes.
that was brilliant. I loved that.
Yes, yes, indeed. Also, can I just say how fun to do a for and against theory analysis again? It's been a minute and just excellent job. Those were classics in our Empyrean coverage. Let's tap into our inner oracle and discuss anything else that we feel like we've missed that are speculations for book 3 and beyond. Okay, so this isn't necessarily foreshadowing or speculation, but I needed to put this somewhere. We have to bring up chapter 51. First of all, when we interviewed Callie, we asked her what her favorite Brimstone chapter was, and she said this chapter, chapter 51, which ended up being one hilarious sentence. I fucking hate dragons. But that's not necessarily why I'm bringing it up right now. You and I had a bet that main characters would travel to a new realm, and we argued over what counts as traveling to a new realm, because I thought that they would not spend too much time in a new realm. Nicole, you, on the other hand, thought our characters would go exploring elsewhere and spend a chunk of time in another realm. We debated how to measure this length of time in another realm, because of course it's us, we have to be specific, and agreed on if they are in a new realm for more than 2 chapters, it's enough time that adds up to multiple scenes and advancements in the plot and new lore and all of that. And if it's less than 2 chapters, then that's not enough time on the page we have in a different realm. And then, as they are traveling into the other realm, we get a one fucking sentence chapter. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to fight that this does not count. I don't care. Shh. I don't care if it is the biggest technicality of a win. The bet was focused on amount of time in a new realm. And we don't even know if in this chapter 51, Fisher is in the other realm yet. He's just about to travel to it. He is mid-travel. So this is my petition to win, because chapter 51 does not count as enough time spent in the new realm. I will die on this hill. This was way too unfair, and the chapter part of the bet was an outcome of our real bet, which was measuring in time on the page to be in a new realm long enough. I rest my case.
I'm happy to let you in.
That is not what you've been telling me.
I literally said, let's take it to the fandom. But if you find, I understand. I was going to say, actually, in this episode, that I'm okay with you winning, because at the top of chapter 52, she is mid-travel to the next realm. So,
Then thank you so much. I didn't need to go through all of that.
But you know what? No! I am gonna take this now to the fandom and let them vote on if it's true or not. I don't care. I'm happy to let you win this one.
No! You already let me win!
No, you were passionate, and now I gotta get passionate too. We've been wondering for a while now about Khydan's tattoos, why they sometimes shift and why they sometimes don't. In Deluxe, we see the tattoos go wild, which I wonder if it's something to do with the shadows being closer to their origins. Like, it's causing them to go wild.
Ooh, I thought it was them signaling that they're in danger or something to that effect. But I love this idea. We know tattoos can be gifted by the gods. What if the tattoos sense being close to said gods?
I love that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is time to enter Alget's library with Guru the Shadow Cat, where each episode Lexi guides us through a world-building topic to help us deepen our understanding of this world and its magic.
Today's Alget's library topic is everything we know about dragons and Deluxe. Deluxe is the realm that dragons originate from, and it belongs to the pantheon of undergods. It doesn't have an official name in Nivelia, but its own people call it Deluxe. It is ruled by the god Styx, Lord of the Charred Aerie, King of Dragons. We've talked about him to death on the podcast. You know the guy. The realm itself is hot, 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 and everybody's taking off their clothes. No, just kidding. The air is so excruciating, it feels like inhaling razor blades and having your lungs shredded to ribbons. It's such a harsh environment that Saeris can only be here for 2 hours before she risks being cooked alive. The people here are described as having sickly pale casts to their face with cold, oddly flashing eyes, threadbare clothes and worn leathers, and weapons strapped to their chests, hips, and backs. There is even a split between males and females, with a mixture of rounded and pointed ears, so humans and fae. Now, by God, I want to know more about all that. They're also huge fans of torture, like hanging people upside down from chains and stabbing them with huge black spears with serrated razors. Their realm is also the realm where shadow magic originates. Ooh. The realm portal between Diaxis and Evelia does not have a stone basin to contain it like Quicksilver pools, but it has always been present in Evelia, and it led the city of Ajun to build around it. This gate, as the portal is called, used to be open and foul creatures would come out of it. That's how the Knights of Erythian came about, to ward the gate and prevent all manner of evil from spilling into this world. This gate remained open when the Quicksilver pools stilled. However, it closed after Khydan returned through it. How interesting! It's almost as if Diaxis sealed itself from his world. Nom was the last dragon, so it would make sense that nobody else came through the gate because it was mostly closed for the past 1,700 years. Although it has been opened 3 times over the centuries, and now it is opening every day for 3 hours. This gate is organic, like a festering wound, and the roiling liquid is black, smells like sulfur, and tastes like rot. Blech. It's thick and vicious and doesn't roll off like Quicksilver does. It clings to those who pass through it, working its way into their nose and coating their tongues. While we haven't seen these foul creatures ourselves in Diaxis yet, the malevolent forces gathering on the other side are ready to break through and make Evelia burn. This is why I keep going back to, what if the rot is somehow connected to Diaxis and it's infecting the realm to make it weaker, so eventually they can break through, because how are these wards weakening so much? I know we had been talking about that earlier. Anyway, now let's move on to dragons. Dragons are very large, fearsome creatures standing at over 100 feet tall. Like I said, they originate from Diaxis and are ruled by Styx. At one point, dragons were known to have lived up north in the wastelands far beyond Ajun Sky, which makes sense because that's pretty close to where the gate to their realm is. We don't know very much about dragon abilities, but we do know that they can see into the minds of the Fae and the people around them, or at least the dragon we met today can. She can even hear the conversation between Khydan and Saeris through their bond. Very importantly, dragons can breathe brimstone or a white-hot hellfire. The only 2 dragons that we know about in this world are Arisen, current keeper of the Diaxis Gate. She is the mother of Shakrai. She has deep black scales that almost flash gold in the light. Oh my gosh, like another dragon we know. A horned ridge protrudes from her wide, bony head like a crown. And she has enormous, bulky wings, and her teeth are 3 feet long and jagged. And then, of course, we have Shakrai, aka Old Shakrai. He was the last dragon to enter Evelia, and therefore the last dragon in Evelia. He was slain by previously known as Kingfisher at the Battle of Ajun Gate, and his skull is mounted in the throne room in the Winter Palace. What if that's the trade? I don't think it is at all, but
Probably
maybe it's
not.
to trade his skull.
Can you
For a
imagine
dragon.
skull heist? Dun dun, like they're like dun 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 dun.
Oh, and Saeris does have the power of invisibility.
Oh my god.
Oh my
As-
gosh, okay.
As we finish up with the Fae Alchemy world for now, let's touch quickly on our final thoughts on Brimstone now that we finished the deep dive.
You know, I thought my opinion about Brimstone would change with the deep dive, because it really did with Quicksilver, but I don't think it has, although I definitely understand more about the magic system and who's where when and, all of that. I love the magic and lore nuances of this world. I know I keep pointing those out throughout the deep dive, but I really do love them. It's such rich world building, and I love the little details and the way that Callie leans into the magic. I love Carrion's character arc in this book, and Tal shined as well. I loved both of them so much. I don't know if I'm as enthusiastic about Fisher being my number 2 book boyfriend as much as I was initially. And I admit I feel the least connected to Saeris out of all the FMCs that we have covered. If you're listening to this now, you've been with us through the deep dive and heard our struggles with analyzing her character that I don't really think that we've experienced with other FMCs, specifically when it comes around leadership.
No, I think because with other FMCs, even when they were challenging, and boy, have they been challenging.
Yes.
There were moments that we can always,
They were
get in their
consistent.
mind. They were consistent. We could get in their mind and really see their point of view, which even if we didn't agree with it, we were able to discuss it on the deep dive. And it's been really challenging to do that with Saeris because there has been some inconsistency, and because in order to get into her mind, I don't see her goals or her 3-dimensionalness as much as I do as other FMCs that we've deep dove in.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, the three-dimensionalness there too. I think that this is very much a fantasy lore heavy versus character heavy with all of that. Yeah.
Agreed.
To me, Brimstone is a fantastic vibes book. There are so many memorable moments that made me laugh out loud, feel immersed in the story, on edge of my seat in the best way. Nicole, you and I had such a great time reading it.
We were laughing out loud at like 3 a.m. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Lots of 5-star moments in Brimstone.
Yes.
And with that said, in all honesty, this has been a really challenging deep dive because of the continuity errors. I like to think we at Fantasy Fangirls are very forgiving about editing errors because we understand some of the behind the scenes of publishing where, yeah, it happens. And yet it was so much more than a few editing errors in this book. It was very hard to trust what is an Easter egg, what's a possible theory, and what's an error or a plot hole. As we're looking at Brimstone, Quicksilver, and the bonus chapters, there are not consistent things across the board there, and that makes it very, very difficult for us to do our job. With that said, I'm still really excited for book 3 to see how the story wraps up. I said this earlier, how I love this kind of cliffhanger that makes you want to go back and reread. It's been so much fun with Daddy Watch and looking at Fisher / Khydan with new perspective. So overall, I'm keeping my rating at a 4.25, but if it's a vibes read, it's a 4.5. If it's a deep dive only, probably more like a 3.5.
You and I actually have the exact same ratings because for me, when we first started the deep dive, I had just done my second reread and I was like, oh my God, things are making a lot more sense. But then for the deep dive, things started crumbling on the feet that they were standing on. And I think you said it perfectly. As a vibes book, this is a 4.5. There are so many great moments. Everything with Kingfisher and Carrion in Zelvarin was perfect. There were so many great moments. You mentioned Tal and Carrion. I'm going to throw Foley in there as well.
Oh,
I love him. I cannot wait to see where his character arc goes in book 3, which, yes, I'm definitely still planning on reading. I'm so excited. And as we especially got into these last 2 episodes where the big climactic moments of the book happen, where everything starts coming together, the things did not come together. It was like square pegs were trying to fit in round holes. Yes. And that was really, really, really difficult for us to do. I like to think, and I really do hope, that we looked at it from all perspectives. And there were some moments where I caught myself just having to throw my hands up in the air. And that is really a
Zareth gone rogue.
Zareth went rogue a lot in these last 2 episodes. And that can be rather frustrating as a deep diver and a lover of fantasy books where you want these worlds to be as rich as the world we live in. And I understand also that is so fucking I understand a lot, actually, how fucking difficult that can be as an author. And I think, and I really do hope that there are some moments that we were like, oh my gosh, well, this makes no sense, that are resolved in book 3. I'm very excited to read book 3 because, like we've been saying since the beginning, a lot of my opinions will really be solidified when we read book 3. And I also understand that can be frustrating for listeners, being like, well, we're going to have to wait a year. So if I'm rating solely off of book 2, I'm going the same as you, Lex. Vibes, 4.5. Deep dive, 3.5 is as good as I can go. Let us close out this episode and this Fae and Alchemy coverage with prancing through the snow with a newly healed Onyx and discussing our favorite moments from this final stretch of chapters. I'll go first. I kind of love how hopeless Saeris is with Fae bargains in this world. Like, it's very on brand for her. She's very impulsive. She's, she has a sprinkle of I know best. And I love that the Hazrax calls her out on how terrible she is at Fae bargains. It's so funny. This is a moment that hits extra good as an FFG fan. Saeris thinks during the battle with Belikon that she is going to need 2 hands, and 2 is in italics. The worlds have collided.
I also love this phrase, and it always hits me in the feels when I read it. Quote, a heart ruled by hatred and fear could not experience miracles. You had to know love, joy, and trust for that. I love that line so much. I think that is very applicable in the real world as well as in fantasy worlds.
I love that writing. Gorgeous.
Yes.
Everything that Fisher says about animals. And I'm reading the whole damn quote because it's too perfect not to. Quote, We believe that animals are too pure for this life. They are all ascended beings who live in the after. Everything is perfect there. No pain or misfortune or heartbreak. But sometimes they peer beyond the veil between this life and the next, and they see us here in the depths of our suffering, and they choose someone, one soul they want to help over any other. They come to us as dear friends when we need them most. I love this, and I am going to choose to adapt this way of thinking too.
I love that. When Saeris and Khydan are inches from death with the dragon, she thinks that she should have drunk from him. I love how she's like, I gotta go out on a high. Let's dose each other, baby. Just got a good chuckle out of that.
That's so good. While walking through Ajun, Saeris notices ice-adorned fascias. Time for a quick plant watch. Fascias symbolize fascination, makes sense, prosperity, and strength in numbers. Sounds about right for a place that has knights who have just been called in. And last but not least, even in the midst of hanging upside down in literal hell, Khydan's got jokes. After Kai slices someone's literal arm off, Saeris is like, this is really bad. This is really bad. And he's like, don't panic. Stay calm. And I'm with Saeris. I'm sorry. I'd freak out on him because if someone tells me to stay calm, I'm like, yes, stay calm. Get away from me. She says, are you calm? You just disarmed someone. And he chuckles and he says, disarmed? And Khydan, I got a good chuckle out of that. Thank you very much.
I love it so much. And that's a wrap on our Brimstone coverage, friends. Thank you so much for being on this journey with us as we've returned to Evelia and Zelvarin for this Fae Alchemy series.
Next Monday's episode is all about the fabulous Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson, ahead of the sequel, The Wicked and the Damned, releasing in February. But that's not all, because for the first time on a Fan Guides episode, we will be having the author, Rebecca Robinson, on during the second part of the episode and chatting with her. I cannot wait. She's one of my favorite people on the planet.
We'd love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest feral fans for the fan club. Oh my gosh, there are so many of you here. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here, for supporting us. We appreciate you. Take it away, Nicole.
Welcome, Andrea, Anne-Marie W., Kelsey S., Brenna M., Leanne, Kirsten, Jordan H., Faith, Nicole M., Danny B., and Lacey K. Welcome.
Yay! We're so happy to see you. And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and be shouted with all this love too, join the fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. Link is in the show notes.
As always, thank you so much to our master librarian, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and of course, our executive producer, our sanity manager, the co-host of Fantasy Fanfellas Season 2 coming soon, Hayden.
We are very active on social media. Specifically this week, we are having a whole vote on what we are covering next. It's elimination style. We want to hear it. You are deciding your fate, so go head over to socials at Fantasy Fangirls Pod and help us decide. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, pretty please hit that subscribe button to keep following along. Same goes for Fantasy Fanfellas, to give them a follow at Fantasy Fanfellas, where you can get all the latest on the new show as Hayden and Steven deep dive into Mistborn.
While you're hitting buttons, go ahead and hit that 5-star button on whatever podcast platform you're listening on, and writing a little love note in the review section is one of the nicest things you can do, not just for this podcast, but for any and all podcasts you listen to. It is like giving your favorite podcasters a big hug. And last but not least, share this episode with your fellow Brimstone friends. If you were screaming with your friends about Kingfisher's Our Father line, this is a great episode to send to them for the final all-encompassing Daddy Watch.
Thank you so much for being part of this deep dive journey. We cannot wait to see you for what's next with our fan guide series of Throne of Glass. We will see you on the other side, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. If your true name was La 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 la.
I have no idea where you were going with this.